To the rush of day, when the heat of a rolling wave can't turn away, and it's handing moment, and it sees me through. It's for laughter's restless warrior, just to be with you. And can you feel the love tonight? Is where we are. It's now, but it's wide wonder every dark to fall. And can you feel the love tonight? I was led to make kings and vagabonds leave the if they only learn of the twisting kaleidoscope moves us all in turn. Because the right man moves us to the wild outdoors. When the heart of the stars pointer beats in time with yours. Can you feel the love tonight? It is where we are. It's love, but it's why I wonder every darkness fall. Can you feel the love tonight? I was led to it's enough to make you it's enough to make you leave
Salutations, Legion of Doom. Welcome to Podcast The Storm, where socially awkward outcasts, crazy weirdos, and all-around nerds convene to talk and debate all things pop culture. With me, as always, is my co-host, the nerdy occultist, aka the Authenticator, Dalton L. Mortimer.
Hello, and I'm sorry I'm late. Normally, Brainstormer and I get together like an hour beforehand to discuss the topics of the evening, but today I woke up at like 5, so I immediately jumped in the shower. It normally takes me about an hour and a half to 2 hours to take said shower, and thus here we are.
I figured it was something like that, but you know, I was honestly just worried I was gonna have to.
But I made it in under the wire for the intro, so all is well if it ends well.
Although you did miss the song. Can you feel love?
No, I got it. I came in just as it was wrapping up. So yeah, can you feel love tonight?
Yeah. Hopefully, Corrupt will be here as well. He usually pops on a little later, so I guess we will save the top 5 lists that we have for when he does show up, or if he does.
Assuming he did it, which I don't.
No, he did. He did. I got it. We're good.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're just gonna start with probably should open this earlier, but yeah, we're gonna start with the one article we didn't get to do last week, just for time reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Which, yeah, it's okay. It's all right. Let me present that, and I hope everyone's enjoying this Super Bowl Sunday as well.
I couldn't begin to care except for this is when all the interesting trailers drop. So
Yeah,
sports
we'll talk about
is a
those.
foreign language to me.
Depends on the sport for me, to be fair. Mostly, I'm a big fan of kind of wrestling, though that is marginal at best.
But sports is simply a foreign language to me. I mean, other than the fact that those who play it are hot. But when you watch sports literally just for porn, people look at you funny. So,
All right. So yeah, this is from Insider. Yeah, this is something Dalton sent to me. This is from Insider.com. 8 Reasons Why Valentine's Day is the Worst. This is written by Ann Schmidt, published February 11th, 2019. So it is a few years old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Shall we?
We shall.
Valentine's Day can be incredibly expensive. Be an incredibly expensive holiday to celebrate. Buying jewelry, flowers, and dining at a nice restaurant might not even help your relationship and could even harm it. Valentine's Day. Hold on. Valentine's Day leaves people in relationships with impossible expectations and leaves single people out. Okay, so I kind of want to break this down, obviously, first with like point by point, obviously. So let's start with the first one. I don't surface don't technically disagree with the expensive.
Okay, I have two issues with that first part. One, it's up to you to decide how much money you will spend. It's very much between you and your partner to decide how much you individually will spend. Okay. The second of my rebuttal to that first point is similar to what I said last week to the woman who wanted to basically ban Valentine's Day outright. Generally speaking, we indulge in these holidays. We spoil those we love because we love them. We want to show them how much we care in extravagant, over the top ways because that's kind of what Valentine's Day is for. So the amount of money you're willing to spend on a day like Valentine's Day is sort of indicative of how much you feel like you want to spoil your partner, which again, calling back to my first point, is something you and your partner can decide between yourselves as individuals, by the way, but also the reason why people are willing to and try to spend so much money on Valentine's Day is because it's the day of the year when you're supposed to go, when you're supposed to show those you love how much you love them by way of, romantic gestures or sentimental gestures or emotionally charged gestures of some description. And also, surely if you love someone, you don't mind having them be pampered every great now and again. And that's kind of what Valentine's Day is for. It's an excuse to pamper those you love because you love them. Once again, we're left to this thing of like, number one, it's your choice to spend however much you choose to spend. And number two, it's supposed to be a reflection of how much you care. So it's not some burden being placed upon you because, in theory, you should care about the person you're in a relationship with and want to spoil and pamper them. Presumably. Next point.
Well, I had something to say. Like I said, on surface level, I don't technically disagree. That's just because it's just I think different in our approaches on just life in general. Because I don't have a lot of money. I know you technically don't either. I'm just
No, I just insist on spending the money I do have in ways that are, for lack of a better word, above my station, I
right.
guess.
That's fair. Again, it's just my point of like and again, I don't disagree with like the points you made. To be fair, like the issue I kind of have with it is mainly an issue I have with like a lot of holidays is certain businesses do tend to jack up their prices.
Mm-hmm.
That is an issue, but that's not. It's not solely related to Valentine's Day. So that.
Yeah.
So that again, service level, don't disagree, but I do see the way they are framing it is kind of the issue, obviously.
Yeah, I actually thought of a third reason I disagree with this, which does kind of relate to my spending above my station thing. The reason I'm able to do that is because both my mother and myself have always been knowledgeable of this thing called being thrifty, i.e., you know the old phrase, work smarter, not harder? Well, sometimes you have to spend smarter and not harder, i.e., make the most of the money you do spend so that it goes further. And so you can prioritize, luxuries and things when it's warranted. So, and again, to use an example of something I said last week that everyone thought was the gayest thing ever, when it comes to my romantic gestures for my significant other, I'm gonna do a couple things for my significant other. Presumably, whoever I wind up with is going to be physically active in the extreme, and therefore is going to be working out a lot, and therefore is going to be sore a lot. And so, one of the ways that I fully intend to show my affection for them is by giving them massages. Another way in which I intend to
Wait,
to
hold on. You said a specific massage, which is why we called you gay. What was the specific massage you mentioned?
I I didn't
Yes, you did.
particularly.
No,
All,
you
all, all, all I said was that their body would probably be sore from all the working out they're doing. Therefore,
you
I
said
will
foot
massage them to
massage.
make them feel better.
You said foot massage.
No, I
That
didn't.
yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Hand to God, I
It,
swear.
it's it's on fucking tape. No, I didn't. But my point is that doesn't necessarily require money apart from whatever oils and various accoutrements that I might massage them with.
Still gay. I'm just gonna say
The
that.
um the other thing is I have a collection of cookbooks, and therefore it is entirely likely that I am going to cook my future significant other a 5-star gourmet meal because I'm going full Vincent Price on this shit because that's one of the ways that, for one thing, I'm just a fancy fucker in general, as Brainstormer will tell you. As he puts it, I am that bitch. But more to the point, again, a way of showing someone you care about them is to pamper them, and Valentine's Day is the day for romantic pampering, and there are very few romantic pampery type things you can do that don't involve that are more romantic than having someone cook for you. Thus, my forms of a romantic gesture probably aren't going to be that expensive because, again, barring the expensiveness of the massage oil and whatever ingredients I'm cooking with, and or the various accoutrements that I might be cooking, that I might be using to cook, that doesn't require a whole lot of spending money. Now, granted, because hopefully this person would also feel inclined to be romantic towards me, he might be inclined to spend money on me because we might go to the movies or he might take me out to a ballet or something, who knows.
God, you are
But
so gay.
this is not news. You've known this
I
since we met, pretty much.
I know, but God, dude, just every time it just sounds super fucking gay, like the stereotypical
That's
person gay,
because it is.
sitcom gay. You are a sitcom gay.
It is. And he's just noticing now, folks. Four years into the friendship, and he just now notices.
I mean, it's better than. Actually, I don't know if it's better than the more. Can I get a gay pass? I want to say this word, but
You, by all means, here, take my gayness as a shield for what you're about to say.
The twinks, the ones you don't like.
God,
I mean,
especially the really, really fucking flamboyant ones.
so again,
I,
like I don't know if sitcom gay is better than a twink. So
it depends on the sitcom, I suppose, but in general, I would think so. In any case, my point is that you don't necessarily have to explicitly spend a bunch of money to be romantic. And if you are dating or married to a high maintenance bitch who does require you to spend money in order to spoil them, and I'm fully aware that I might be in this category, at least tangentially, because as Brainstormer puts it, I am that bitch. But and you just saw the reaction when I mentioned that I like ballet and musical theater and shit. But my point is that unless you are dating someone who is that much of a type A Regina Georgian bitch that she needs, like, that she's literally singing the I want fabulous song from High School Musical 2 whenever romantic gestures come up. It's something you can decide for yourselves, and it's something that can fluctuate based on your personal, your personal desires, your personal needs. Like, again, most of my gestures romantically will cost some money in the sense of I have to pay for fancy food and or the things to cook things to cook the fancy food with, and or the massage oils that I plan to use on them. But that's neither here nor there compared to the you know, people who will order cruises around the French Riviera or some shit for Valentine's Day, or get a hotel room with bottles of wine and the honeymoon suite and all that business. Like, it's
that,
not that expensive.
to be fair, that just based on my sensibilities, cruises and uh, it just that feels very what's the word I'm trying to look for?
Posh.
Not even that. Uh, Pretentious, I guess, to me at least.
Yep, it's the lifestyle of posh cunts. And yes, again, I'm aware my wardrobe and such would imply that I aspire to a lifestyle slightly above my station in life. I'm not giving that up because I shop smarter, not harder, but that's neither here nor there. Um,
Um,
but even I look at that kind of extravagance and I go, okay, unless you're literally making six figures, then you shouldn't be doing that shit. And if you are making six figures, then you have no room to complain about how much of a burden spending that much money is.
well, also, I don't know if anyone, and I'll answer your question in a second, Dragon Troll. Just uh, I also have somewhat of a worry with like those kind of things. Not even just money expenses, but you remember when quarantine happened and stuff? That there was that ship that got stuck in the ocean, that cruise ship.
Uh huh. Uh huh. Uh huh.
Yeah. So that also pirates, it's still a thing.
Also, Titanic syndrome.
That too, yeah. Also, I think I might have thalassophobia, which is the fear of deep bodies of water. I might be mispronouncing that, but
I mean, I don't blame you because I can't even swim, so fair enough. But at the same time, worrying about everything that can go wrong on a boat is a little bit like worrying about everything that can go wrong on a plane.
that's why
Just
I'm
because
flying.
just because those things do happen sometimes doesn't mean that they're at all likely to happen. I
True, but
I
also
mean, to use
I'll
your
be honest.
quarantine example, you literally had to shut down the world to have that situation happen.
Okay, that and also I don't think I would fare well on a boat because I think I have a tiny bit of motion sickness. So being on a boat might not work for me.
So today we have learned that Brainstormer is a land lover. Literally.
Oh yeah, I prefer. I prefer that. Anyway, okay, so answer, and we'll move on to this. I want to answer Giant Trill's question. Are Twinkies, you know what I mean, but YouTube doesn't, the same as femboys, or are they different? Dalton?
Um, there's a lot of overlap, but not always. Twinks tend to be on the more feminine side. But one thing that's different about femboys than twinks in general, and again, there's a lot of circumstantial overlap, so don't quote me on this. But my differentiation between a femboy and a twink is a twink is by definition the type of person who is very flamboyant and very in your face about their gayness, whereas a femboy by their very nature is very introverted and shy. So that to me is the difference, and that's why even though I would never ever date a femboy, I don't hate them as viscerally as I hate twinks, because not only are they like deliberately effeminate to the point of absurdity, but twinks will often be almost aggressively effeminate, if that makes any sense. Like they'll be as in your face and sassy and bitchy as they possibly can be on purpose. And that's the other thing is femboys tend to exhibit the more positive aspects of femininity, whereas twinks very often are the sassy bitches of the gay community and therefore exhibit not only femininity but the worst aspects of femininity, the I am entitled to everyone else's attention variety of femininity.
So I'm looking at the scroll bar, and it looks like this is pretty long.
Yeah, we should boogie then.
Okay, Drenzo said something interesting here. I thought it would be the opposite. Always saw femboys as the Astolfo types who are really out there. Sassiness versus positive, I can believe, though. Astolfo, if you think, I am assuming Fate Grand Order or Fate Apocrypha anime thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Drenzo. To be fair, I only know that from the abridged series that there was made. So,
Dragon Turtle, you say sassiness is a positive, probably because you haven't met one.
No, the sassiness versus positive. I can believe though. That's what he said.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. Because I was like, if you think the sassiness is a positive, sir, you haven't met enough twinks. Because it's so entitled. It's gynocentrism without the gyno part, basically.
Yeah, that tends to be a thing. It's weird how we like memes. Like you're able to know a lot of things from memes, but not know the actual content of the thing.
Well, it's the old adage of there's always a grain of truth, and memes are very much that same way. They might be a joke, but they're the kind of joke that is in the category of funny because it's true very often.
Memes, the DNA of the soul. If anyone gets that, you're awesome.
Is that a Dawkins quote? Because he was the one who originally coined the term meme.
No, it's from a video game. As far as I know, that's where it's coming from.
I'm fairly certain that whatever game you're talking about took it from Dawkins, because Dawkins was the one who proposed the concept of the meme in the first place. Not that it's an entirely new idea, mind you. It's just that Dawkins finally put a fancy academic word on it, which is useful because labels are useful sometimes, and you know.
Yeah, MGR Metal Gear Revengeance Rising. Metal Gear.
Yeah. Anyway, we have a lengthy listicle to get through, so on with the list.
So reiterating the point here, buying expensive jewelry. To be fair, that pretty much just goes with like the stuff you said about the first point. So
yeah, decide.
Hold on. Buying expensive jewelry, flowers, and dining at a nice restaurant might not even help your relationship and could even harm it.
Okay, well, there's a couple of reasons for that. There's a couple of plausible reasons for why that would actually hurt your relationship rather than helping it. Either you are with a type A bitch who does not appreciate what she's given, or that he is given, depending. I'm not being biased here. There are type A men bitches too. It's just a lot more common for it to be women because of instinctive gynocentrism and how our culture enables that. But that's neither here nor there. My point is that either you have someone who doesn't appreciate what they're given when they're given luxury items like that and want more, i.e., the Sharpay style "I want fabulous" syndrome, which again I'm fully aware I probably fall into. Yeah. Um, or you don't know your partner very well and don't know what they would actually want, and therefore have just gone with the most cliche, normal, quote unquote, romantic gestures you could find, rather than learning to get to know your partner as an individual, and therefore spend the same amount of money you would on those luxury items on something they would actually want. Like for me, it would be antiques. I love antiques, and I love grimoires and books and things. So instead of the fancy restaurant thing, although to be fair, I'm also a foodie, so the fancy restaurant thing would probably work on me too. But that's neither here nor there.
Uh,
In, instead of the romantic cliches, get them something they're personally interested in. Get them something that they would consider a luxury. That's option two. And then of course there's option three, where you both are just narcissistic twits who want more than you could feasibly have. And in any case, the only the only reasons I can think of why someone would take it as an affront to be spoiled like that is if that relationship is not meant to be to begin with. I.e., if your partner has an issue with these kind of things, part of it might be on you. As I said, you might not know your partner very well and might not know how to spoil them properly. But part of it may just be that you're dating a type A bitch of some description who doesn't deserve your time and effort. In which case, the romantic gesture is still not the problem. The relationship itself is the problem. Because in a normal, healthy, stable relationship, when one partner goes out of their way to try and spoil the other partner is grateful. Either because they appreciate the luxury just on its face, or because the other partner was smart enough to personalize the romantic gesture instead of going with the stock standard romantic cliche. But if neither of those things is the case, then it's just not a good relationship. I'm sorry. It's not Valentine's Day's fault. It's not romantic gestures' fault. You were just a bit of a cunt when you were doing it.
right. Sorry, it's clearing my phone. Okay. I was going to say something, but I think you covered the points I was going to say in a less eloquent manner. So,
Hmm.
I mean, I would cover it in a less eloquent manner than you did. So,
I assumed that's what you meant, but I
yeah,
didn't.
as soon as I said
Yeah.
it, I realized I misphrased that.
It's all right. Anyway, next.
Yeah. Valentine's Day leaves people in relationships with impossible expectations and leaves single people out.
Is
Uh,
it? Go ahead.
no, I was trying to think if I did have anything to say this. I think you could say it better than me. So,
Okay. Define impossible expectations, because again, we have this little failure in your understanding called individualism, and now I need to go through it yet again. The expectations one partner has for another are either founded on the notion that Valentine's Day is a day to pamper each other, which is a perfectly true and perfectly rational notion for the most part, Or it could be the aforementioned situation where you just happen to be dating a type A bitch who is mostly interested in what they can get out of the relationship rather than the actual interest of the relationship.
Hey, Dom,
What?
I think we did a stupid because I think that was just the label for the chapters within this article.
Oh, well, that's darn.
So pretty much going to be repeating ourselves.
Okay, but let's actually get into their individual descriptions of the things so we can actually have interesting rebuttals.
Okay. Well, here's the intro to the article, I guess. Let's face it, Valentine's Day might actually be the worst. Even if you aren't single on the holiday that celebrates love and relationships, Valentine's Day, in my opinion, is just a chance for companies to take advantage of you and your partner.
By providing you services that you want and are willing to pay for. Oh, the humanity. I hate this. And I know there's some like very cynical truth to it. I know, but this whole companies just take advantage of special days to make money, and I'm like, they do so by providing you things that you want regardless. So that's not exploitation. That like that that's you wanting a service and them being willing to provide you a service. And there are cases like Brainstormer mentioned where they'll hike up the prices unnecessarily, or they'll basically blackmail you into feeling that way and whatnot. But I really hate this. X holiday is just a capitalist exploitation machine. Fucking pseudo intellectual gobbledygook that always comes up, whether it's Christmas, whether it's Halloween, whether it's Valentine's Day, whether it's whatever, because it's like people like having nice things and other people are willing to sell them and or manufacture for them said nice things for them to buy. Pourquoi is the exploitation? Where is the exploitation? You want nice things, company is willing to offer you nice things, and they are willing to do so usually at a higher standard than you could make for yourself or more conveniently than you could make for yourself. I don't I don't see that as exploitative. I see that as some crafty bugger 100 years ago or so realizing there's a hole in the market and then proceeding to try and fill that hole in the market. Like that's just the world functioning as intended, my friend. Anyway, moving on. When Brainstormer gets back. If yeah, but this goes back to something I said last week as well, like the vilification of transactions, as though the very act of transactions or the very existence of transactions is some kind of immoral travesty. When in actuality, transactions are just the interpersonal human societal version of like causality, and it's not a bad thing.
Ventral, that is something I do hate about humans, but it is true. You have to spend time with money on someone beyond what you already do in order to show you care and read their minds, show you care about them.
Well, presumably, if you care about them, you should kind of already somewhat know what's going on in their head, i.e., you should know and you should care enough to learn about them and therefore make deductions based on what you know about them.
Uh, just seems like a lot of a headache, especially when they don't really want much. And what do you get them? And I can't read people. You tell me what you want.
I mean, I get that too. My solution to this issue, and as it seems to be fairly effective, is when I'm gift giving to anyone, I basically just treat it like math. Like I line up in my head all the facts and all the like interest that a person has, all the things I know about them, and I look at it like a giant Venn diagram, and I try to figure out my best of how how can I, with one single gift, hit as many of these buttons as possible? How can I in a gift uh put basically how can I put everything I know about this person to use in order to determine what they want? And usually I'm fairly good at it. And Brainstormer can kind of act as a testimonial to that.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, all the gifts, flowers, candies, and expensive meals add up, and at the end of it all, they often left feeling the holiday didn't live up to your high expectations. Okay, that's up to the individual what expectations you have for.
Yeah, and one has to wonder why you had those expectations to begin with. Like
Movies.
again, it's also very much a question of what particularly are you expecting from your significant other? Are you expecting literally the like 90s rom-com style of he purchases a limousine with champagne and roses and chocolate covered strawberries inside and takes you off to a 5-star French restaurant or some shit? Like if that's what you want, then at some level it's your job to communicate that to them. If that's not what you want, if you want something more personal, something more specific to you as a person, then you should be able to find someone who is capable of having that connection with you as a person and therefore is able to intuit or or in my case rationally calculate what you probably would like. um but point being, on some level this is just you feeling entitled to storybook happy endings and not at all being willing to convey this information to anyone who would be capable of offering you said storybook happy ending. Like if you want the big elaborate romantic gesture, you could just convey to the person in question that you would like them to to save up their money so you could do something special on Valentine's Day. And assuming you're in a happy, stable relationship of some description, they're probably more than willing to do that. Or are you saying the other possible thing, which is far more malicious and ignorant on your part, which is they tried to do their best to give me that romantic gesture, and I didn't feel like it was enough. Is that where you're going with this? Because if that's the case, then we're back to the supposition of maybe you don't care enough about this person. Maybe you just are in the relationship to see what you can get out of it. In which case, frankly, you don't deserve the effort they already put in, and you are being a bitch. And if both parties in the relationship are feeling that way, then both of you are just type A bitches, and you probably shouldn't be in a relationship together. Period.
There are 8 reasons why Valentine's Day is the absolute worst. The pressure to spend tons of money on cards, gifts, flowers, and candy.
Again, like I said last week, the pressure generally comes from your desire to display to the person you care about most in the world, presumably, how much you love them and how much you want to spoil them and how much you want to pamper them and so on. Like you're acting as though you're you're acting as though your obligation to care about the people you profess to care about is in some way a burden. And I get it to some degree because again, I find people difficult to deal with because most people frankly are not worth the time and energy I would need to put in order to put up a good socially acceptable facade. Like most people simply are not worth that effort for me. So I get it to some degree. But I don't act as though that pressure is a form of victimization or oppression on my to me or on my part. because I understand the actual logical, rational, causal mechanism behind that pressure. The reason why people like to spend a bunch of money on luxuries and fancy shit for Valentine's Day is because they want to pamper their significant other and demonstrate to them how much they care. And generally speaking, when you're in love with someone, when you're actually in love with someone, you kind of fall into this thing of, and anyone who's ever felt butterflies in their stomach can confirm this probably. You feel as though this person is unavoidably better than you, and that you need to do what you can do to prove yourself to them, and therefore you put in your best effort so as to show them how much you find them to be worthy and how much you find them to be worth the effort. So that pressure should mostly come from you because presumably you care about your significant other. And if it doesn't come from you, if it only comes from societal expectations, quote unquote, then you might just be a callous person who doesn't really care for their significant other, which is just sad.
Moving on?
Yeah.
Because that was just the title of this reason.
Mm-hmm. Moving.
According to a survey done by the National Retail Federation, people are expecting to spend an average of $161.96 on Valentine's Day for their significant others, children, parents, friends, and coworkers. Actually, given a lot of other things, it's actually not that bad.
Yeah, no, and keep in mind that, statistics 101 point here. If that's the average, then you have a lot of people presumably spending more than that, and you have a lot of people spending significantly less than that.
Bring that up in the next paragraph. Well, next sentence, I guess.
Okay.
And if you're a man, you're likely to spend even more money. The survey found men are planning on spending $229.54, while women are planning to spend $97.77.
I really don't think you want me to go into the reasons why that discrepancy might be, because it's going to get significantly men's rightsy if I do that.
You know what? I will allow a rant, but if it goes on for too long, I will call that. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm willing to bet with every fiber of my being that the person who wrote this article defines themselves as a feminist of some description or other.
Her name is Anne, so.
So I find it incredibly likely that the person who wrote this article may very well be a feminist.
And again, it was written in 2019, so it is years.
Yeah, it's entirely likely. But the reason I point that out is because I swear to God, if this person tries to pull the woman's oppression card later, I'm gonna fall back on this, because here's the thing. That categorically proves that men do the majority of the work with regards to the romancing, at least financially, on Valentine's Day. And that women are at least feel pressured, to use your phrase, to spend less than men do. What does that imply to most people who would actually be willing to look at those statistics objectively? Because it says to me that, as I just went through in my previous rant there, because to some degree our desire to pamper each other on Valentine's Day is a reflection of how much work we feel we have to put in because the person we're romancing is in some way better than us. Again, referencing the butterflies everyone gets before asking someone out and so on. That says to me that men in general feel more obliged to prove themselves than women do. It also says to me that with regards to Valentine's Day, men are fitting the majority of the bill. And yet, it's a woman like this that is writing this article, and not Paul Elam or any of the honey badgers, for example. I.e., this is yet another case of men feel obliged to pamper women on Valentine's Day. Women most effective. Derp. Moving on.
Also, hello, Summertime Gaming. They popped in there. So last thing of this first point here. In total, in 2017, Americans spent more than $30 billion celebrating the holiday. Okay, that I can believe.
Yep,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Obviously, and just. Okay. Reason number 2. You're probably also expected to get a dinner reservation, which can be extremely difficult and require a lot of planning.
Oh no, I'm going to have to plan to obtain the things I want if I in fact want them.
I mean, to be
the humanity.
I mean, I've gone into certain restaurants without a reservation that you kind of need one, and like I'm not even talking about fancy ones either. Like I went to this like barbecue place. It's packed all the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I was sitting there waiting to get a seat at a table for like, I don't know, 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Good food though, like it was really good. I'm not.
And I'm gonna be the tiniest bit of a dick here, but I'm gonna enjoy it anyway. If you're so frustrated by the need to get dinner reservations, you could develop a fucking skill and actually learn to cook. You know, that is an option. Like okay, let's say you want to give your significant other the big elaborate fancy French, dinner type thing that people regularly associate with Valentine's Day. Julia Child's The Art of French Cooking has been in print for 100 years roughly, and a really really nice two volume set of it is going to set you back $60. So get it at some point in the year leading up to Valentine's Day. Teach yourself from it, and boom, you can give your wife or your husband the fancy French, ritzy, fancy candlelit dinner that you want from a 5-star restaurant.
Well, I'm gonna just kind of make a personal thing here to kind of counteract that. I don't have like a net. It's ironic because on the fact that there are 2 generations of cooks in my family, but I have no.
I still say you should ask them to teach you.
I've tried, and I've even tried to teach myself.
There's also an entire channel on sometimes 2, depending on your cable package, that are food related. There's the Food Network, and then there's also the Cooking Channel. Personally,
yes, I use. My point is, I don't technically have an innate skill or creativity when it comes to cooking, because I'll be honest, my creativity comes more from writing and stuff. So
that's what cookbooks and cooking shows are for, my friend.
I get your point. I'm just saying it's certainly difficult for some people.
Yeah, but I mean, you do have a year. Like, figure out even if it's just one meal that you know how to make. If that one meal is the meal you want to make on Valentine's Day, you have a year and the internet and cooking shows and cookbooks to try and figure things out. My point is that if the reservations are such a no-go for you, then you can teach yourself how to cook.
Or find a place that is a lot easier to make one. Like I think, because again, this goes to my own personal thing. Like, main place to go to a date is like a diner, because I do love diners, and they're just that goes to a lot of other things of like different atmosphere than like the fancy restaurants. Granted, I've never been to like a 5-star one. The most stars,
Me either. The most I've ever gone to was maybe like a 3-star one. We
yeah,
have one.
only
We have one fairly fancy restaurant around here called Lakeview, which is pretty nice. It's probably round about a 3-star restaurant, mostly.
my point being, yeah, like it's a case by case scenario in terms of reservation thing, and there are other alternatives, but hello, Chrononaut. More or less, any stress is more for like Valentine's Day is more self inflicted than anything. To be fully honest.
Yeah, again, it's something you can negotiate with your partner, and or something you can make personal with your partner. Like for example, while I might appreciate the 5-star restaurant type food, and I would definitely if that were an option. Um, it doesn't always have to be. It would actually be more meaningful to me if my boyfriend found a book that I really needed, or hell, spells require ingredients and fancy like fucking um tools and apparatuses and shit. And maybe my hypothetical future significant other will be good at carpentry and can make me some ritual implements from scratch. That would be a really nice romantic gesture. And again, most of my romantic gestures for my hypothetical future significant other, apart from the cost of buying the food, which I would then make him, or buying the tools, which would then be required to make the food that I would intend to make him, and or the massage oils that I intend to use later. Like that doesn't cost a whole bunch of money. Rather than, again, it goes back to my point earlier about spend smarter, not harder. Spend on something more meaning. You can spend the same amount of money on something more meaningful and personal to the two of you than you do on the Valentine's Day stereotype.
Sorry, I thought.
No, go ahead.
Well, one from earlier, I wanted to say you are super fucking gay in relation to things you would get your partner or do.
I am aware of this. I am aware of this.
Two, I agree with like everything you're saying. Again, like this is also come from a personal spot here. I personally wouldn't try to go like those big one. Maybe short special occasions. If it's like a relationship that I am in for a time for a while. I would see like going to one of those more fancier restaurants. Again, it's just from a personal thing. I'm like, I don't really see the appeal of them myself. And again, yeah, prices and stuff like that. Just because.
At the very least, you could probably just ask Martin to cook for you, if you didn't want to spend the money.
I thought I had something else, but no. I thought I did, but no, I'm good. I'm good. So, shall we?
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. On Valentine's Day, like I think I mentioned this before. You technically could go either before or after Valentine's Day. Like you don't necessarily have to celebrate it on its day, technically, given the certain stress that would come from it, I guess. Although I feel like that is a bit of a cop out in terms of this argument. So
yeah. Also, I can kind of see the argument as to not celebrate Valentine's Day on Valentine's Day, especially on years where it falls on a weekday. for example, I would much rather wait until the weekend before or the weekend after Valentine's Day and make an entire weekend of it. But then again, I like both being pampered by my hypothetical significant other and also pampering my hypothetical significant other. So that's just me. I'm prone to extravagant displays of affection.
Right.
It's just the nature of who I am.
Hello, Corrupt.
What's up?
Not much. We're covering a stupid article.
Oh, did you guys do the crack ships already?
No, we didn't. We were waiting for you. I guess we could do that now while we're.
All right.
Okay, I want to finish this one, and we can try to finish it next week then, because I'll be honest, this is a lot of stupid.
It's just like this article reminds me of like rich white women fucking issues. It's like, oh no, I'm being oppressed by Valentine's Day. Please.
I am obliged to display how much I care about someone for a single day out of the year. Oh, the humanity, however shall I cope?
Exactly.
It's only. Sorry.
No, it's like entitled. It like when SJWs and shit cry about like entitled people and shit. Like this is like the height of entitlement. Imagine being in like the third world where you make $2 an hour to make some rich white bitch's phone in America, and like the furthest thing on your mind is whether or not Valentine's Day is oppressive to you. Like holy shit.
I mean, to be fair, in the third world, it'd probably be Diwali rather than Valentine's Day, but
No,
nevertheless.
I'm just using that as like an example, basically.
Yeah. But it is also fascinating to me, despite how much these people fucking bitch and moan about spending money, they're almost all either directly making six figures or so, or they're married to or related to somebody who once upon a time made six figures. Like
Pretty much, they make a lot of money just to make these stupid articles, and it's
they
just like,
make money. They make more money than probably all three of us combined will ever see in our entire lifetimes, and yet they complain about having to spend it.
oh no, I feel so pressured. I feel so pressured to have to celebrate Valentine's Day.
Well,
Oh dear.
Yeah, but yeah, let's get back to the article because it's a long one. So let's get into the
again, we'll just finish this one, which is the first one, no, second point of
the one we didn't get to last week because we moved it.
Anyway. According to one restaurant manager who spoke with Romper, diners should plan their meal at least several weeks in advance. And if you live somewhere with fewer fine dining restaurants, you might want to try even earlier. Okay, that's.
And again, I'm gonna sound a bit like a broken record here, but cookbooks exist, the Food Network exists, and online exists. This really, really isn't that hard. If you don't want to deal with the restaurant superstructure or the reservation superstructure, you could. I know it's an outside chance, and maybe I'm a bit old-fashioned here, but you could learn how to cook, or at the very least, learn how to follow a recipe so you can fake knowing how to cook.
Oh my god! Like if dining at a restaurant that's at least somewhat fancier than McDonald's is like a taxing chore for you or a monumental task, like worrying about Valentine's Day is probably the least of your concerns.
Again,
but no, that's not what they're saying. They're not saying we're too poor to afford these. We're too poor to afford these 5-star restaurants, or we don't like these 5-star restaurants. They're saying we like and want to engage with these 5-star restaurants. It's just that we don't feel like we should have to put the effort into doing so.
Which is, again, sorry.
That's what I was reading what this thing says, and once you get there, the fancy diner is going to be wildly expensive. I was mostly commenting on this like headline here.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. But it's still like you don't want to deal with 5-star restaurants and fancy out to dinner meals and so on. Okay, fine. do it old school. Get yourself, Julia Child's Master in the Art of French Cooking, or Auguste Escoffier's Mastering the Art of French Cooking, or Vincent Price's books, or like I'm rattling all these off because I have a whole literal shelf full of cookbooks, but that's neither here nor there. Like, there are dozens upon dozens of here's how to do fancy French dining at home books, and there is the Food Network, and there is online. It's like that one episode of Family Guy where Peter and Lois and Meg and Chris switch places, so the adults have to go to school and the kids have to do the parents' jobs. And the first night Meg makes a meal is like this really elaborate fancy thing, and Lois and Peter are confused as to how she did it, and she's like, I had all day to do this, and I had Google. It only took me like an hour to finish cleaning up the house, so I spent the rest of the day doing this. And it's like that. It's like that never occurred to these people. Like, you don't want to deal with the restaurant infrastructure. Fine,
I think
Google
so.
a recipe of something you might want to cook, and then follow it.
I guess the argument is that they shouldn't have. I guess the argument is that since they have to interact with like the restaurant structure, they don't want to have to go through it. Is that seems to be the argument in general? Is that like
Well,
they
but
have to?
that's what I'm saying. If the restaurant infrastructure is such an inconvenience for you, cut out the middleman and do shit yourself. It
I
also has the benefit of teaching yourself a fucking skill, like.
I agree. I agree actually.
So moving on.
And also, if reservations are such an important thing to you, and you do actually want to involve yourself in the restaurant
Restaurant.
superstructure, like, plan ahead. Like, it's as simple as, like, Valentine's Day is always on February 14th. Like, it's not like it's a holiday that shifts around. So if you a year in advance know, hey, next year I want to take her or I want to take him to this fancy French restaurant, plan the fuck ahead then. God
Yeah,
damn it.
pretty much.
Right. Anyway, moving on. I want to at least get through 2 more of these, and then we can move on because.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, these articles are soul draining just because they're stupid.
They are a bit, but somebody has to.
According to 2017 Valentine's Day dining data from OpenTable, out of all the restaurants available through the app, approximately 40% of reservations were booked in the week leading up to the holiday. Waiting until the last minute and not getting the reservation you wanted can't be stressful for a holiday with such high expectations. I mean, to be fair,
Well, whose fucking fault is that then?
yeah.
Like, if
So the thing I was gonna say was that's similar to like Christmas. Honestly, my family has done that a lot. Like, kind of wait till the last possible minute.
Yeah, but it's like if you wait till the last possible minute, that's your fault. Then I mean, there has to be some personal responsibility involved
the,
in this situation.
again, I guess I jumped the gun by bringing up the you could just plan ahead point, but for the love of God, woman, or person or whomever, like,
Her name is Anne, so
I know, but I'm saying this in the hypothetical of all the other people that might agree with her. Like,
Because what happens is that Dalton will assume it's a woman because the writer writes in a very quote unquote feminine way, and it's a man.
but
And
yeah,
that
but
happens several times.
in any case though, the person who wrote this article and or people who would agree with the person who wrote this article, if you decide of your own free fucking will to wait until the week before, then you shall pay the consequences for having waited until the week before. As I just went over, there is a year in between Valentine's Days. There are 365.25 fucking days in between one iteration of Valentine's Day and the next iteration of Valentine's Day. If you cannot be arsed to at any point make a reservation in the 360, in the 355 or so days leading up to Valentine's Day, then you have basically traded your lack of giving a fuck for the convenience of actually having a reservation. If you, on the other hand, took 5 minutes, back in March of the previous year
Yeah.
to reserve the reservation for next February, you would have the reservation, and you would not have this problem. And your desire to wait until the last minute is no one's fault but your own in this case.
Pretty much. It's more. There has to be some personal responsibility involved in these decisions.
Yeah.
It's like I made a choice, and that choice had negative consequences. Well, what if maybe you should examine the choices you made then.
The problem is, like, some of these arguments are based more on the person refusing to take responsibility for themselves.
I know, but it makes me want to headbutt my phone repeatedly until it breaks.
I would actually want. I am at a part of me is darkly curious to see how that would go.
What?
Darkly curious. I like that prose. Very nice.
What are you darkly curious of, Brainstormer?
You headbutting your phone.
Yeah.
I don't have the money to replace my phone, so I'm not doing it. But God, sometimes I think it is deserved.
I'll be fully honest. You would probably get more damage than the phone.
Pretty much, yeah.
You are not wrong.
Yeah.
you are not wrong. I would probably have a broken nose by the end of this.
You'd have severe brain damage, as they say.
I have a broken nose, and I'd have to go to the hospital like midstream just because.
Pretty much. Fucking little bits of glass would be in your nose and shit. It'd be awful.
Yeah.
Oh God, that. Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on.
Okay. And once you get there, the fancy dinner is going to be wildly expensive. Again, I would like to pose that there is kind of a medium to like the fast food places and fancy restaurants, diners.
Yeah.
Okay, there's that, but also, in the as the old adage goes, you get what you pay for. You want the kinds of foods that would have been served to Louis XIV at court, in the Bourbon French era, then you're going to have to pay at least some of the money that he would have had to pay.
Wait, hold on. Louis XIV, is that the guy who had a lot of wives and killed them and was super fat?
No, that was Henry VIII.
Oh,
you're thinking of. He was English.
I mean, like, they lived so extravagantly. Like, Jesus, the amount of decadence that, like,
it's the quintessential aristocrat. But my point is that if you want to eat like a king, then you have two options. You can learn to do what the royal chefs used to, and bully for you, there are a bunch of books written to teach you how to do exactly that. Or you will have to pay a small portion of what they would have had to have paid for the same level of food.
Okay, I have one question. I'm curious about this. So this particular point. These are points against why Valentine's Day is bad, right? That's
why
Valentine's Day is the worst. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a point against that. So I'm just making sure that I have a clear cut understanding before I make this point. What, like, you don't have to break your wallet in half to go out for a dinner for Valentine's Day. Like, no one's expecting you to go broke. You
spend smarter, not harder, basically.
Exactly.
As
there are several restaurants that you can go to that are nice without, like, killing your wallet. Like, you don't have to go to Fogo de Chao which is like a high-end Brazilian restaurant, in order to like celebrate Valentine's Day. Hell, some people go to the Red Lobster. Like,
Yeah,
I've
I
never,
mean, I love Red Lobster. I absolutely adore Red Lobster.
I've never been there.
you've
I don't
never
even
been
I
to
don't
Red
even think my town has one.
Really? That's
You
fascinating.
live in a city, dude. I find it incredibly unlikely that nowhere in your city in Indiana, which I will not say
Do
for
you
fear of
have an
doxing you.
Do you have an Olive Garden?
I'll be honest, I don't go out much. The closest thing I've gone to is a Golden Corral. And that was years and years ago. I don't know if it's
Okay, well that's that. Given that my area has like three Red Lobsters in like 45-minute driving distances, like I can't imagine your actual city doesn't have at least a
I'm
few.
not like not a big seafood guy either, so
I mean that's fair enough. But point being, like if you writer of this article want the fancy, turn of the previous century, like Auguste Escoffier style cooking, you're gonna have to pay what his patrons would have paid. If you want like, shrimp cocktail coated in beluga caviar and served in a golden carafe or something along those lines, then you have a few options. Learn to make it yourself from the dozens of cookbooks written by the people who were the court chefs for the king back in the day, or or you get what you pay for, which means you will be paying for it. If you want luxury, then you either have to be smart enough to bargain shop for your luxury, like myself, because I made this point earlier. I'm well aware that I cavort myself like a pompous git sometimes. Like I dress in my button up and bow tie and my top hat and so on. I'm well aware that I do my best to live like an aristocrat. But
Or an
I'm
Amish?
capable I'm capable of doing that because my mother and I both, and she raised me with this idea of you can still live in something resembling a life of luxury. You just have to be smart and thrifty and willing to bargain hunt. And if you're not willing to teach yourself how to bargain hunt for the things you find luxurious in life, then you get what you pay for, and you're going to be paying what the kings would have had to have paid back in the day, bearing in mind that there's, inflation and all that other things to be considered. Like,
I just remembered something.
What did you just remember?
Well, I mentioned I've been to Golden Corral. It's like one of the fancier places I've been to in terms of restaurants. I remember one of the times I went there, I threw up in that place.
okay, that actually reminds me of a Red Lobster throw up story that I had. I want to say it was my I want to say it was my 15th birthday. My dad, who is basically never around, he finally bothered to show up one year on my birthday, and he took me out to eat at Red Lobster because that's one of my favorite places to eat. And I, got what I usually get, which is the ultimate feast. Um, and I was absolutely stuffed by the time I was finished eating because I love seafood and I'm not going to waste a single drop of it. But then I had to go to the bathroom. So I get up and go to the bathroom. And I find when I get back that my dad's side of the family has ordered me dessert. And I say to him, I don't want to seem ungrateful, but I think if I eat one more bite, I'm going to explode. But they essentially thought I was joking, and so they laughed it off. And so I tried to eat the dessert that the dessert that they ordered for me. And then I get home to find that my mother, as part of a birthday present to me, has redecorated my room. And in addition to redecorating my room and getting me a whole bunch of new shelves and rearranging all my stuff, um, has gotten me a new bed set with a new comforter and everything. And I lay down basically in a food coma. And I wake up half awake and I just vomit all over the place. And from this point on, I have learned that if I feel like I'm going to explode if I eat one more bite, then no matter how polite it might be to indulge my father for ignorantly getting me a dessert when I didn't ask for one, is don't eat it. Because I ruined a brand new comforter from vomiting up everything I just ate that day.
Actually, I threw up in the Golden Corral.
You threw up in the Golden Corral.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. So I had, if I remember correctly, I had pizza with milk. Not a great combination, especially when you're like 10 years old.
I
was trying to drink a lot of milk back then to be more healthy.
Believe me, I drink like a third of a gallon of milk a day at least, so I get you. But like, I can imagine your gut being upset with regards to that.
Worst part was I couldn't make it to the bathroom in time.
So,
no.
So you threw up on your way to the bathroom.
I threw up at the table I was sitting at first.
Oh
Wow.
no.
Then I went. I wasn't like a lot. It was more like I spat. It's like I kind of spat up milk first.
In any case, as much as this has been, as much as we've been arguing about vomiting, and speaking of things vomit inducing, the rest of this article.
Right. Yeah. Because that was. It's. We have some of the weirdest conversations on here.
We do.
All right, we do.
That's what people come for, though. So give the people what they want.
Weird thing is, I don't think I've. Yeah, I haven't vomited since for like 4 years.
It's been a while for me too. I don't remember the last time I
feel like I've jinxed myself, and the universe is going to.
Yeah, knock on wood.
Yeah. Anyway, in 2017, the average Valentine's dinner was expected to cost $170.52. Also, keep in mind this was published in 2019, so
yeah.
A 16% hike from 2012, according to a Zagat report. That's a lot of money for two people in one dinner.
Some people go out with their families on Valentine's Day. Like some people bring the kids to their Valentine's Day dinner. But also, you just explained in the last statistic you gave us that that most often the money people spend on Valentine's Day period is around $160. So if we take these statistics in kind, that means that all most people do for Valentine's Day, which I can believe, is they go out to a fancy dinner, which seems entirely reasonable to me. So your current point, this point about how expensive Valentine's Day dinners are, really contradicts your previous point about how much people spend on Valentine's Day. Because if you take these statistics together, it means that most of what people do is spend money on their dinner dates, which makes sense. And again, to call back to what I mentioned earlier, you get what you pay for. You can either pay someone to cook for you as though you're a king, or you can cook for yourself. Or you can meet somewhere in the middle and go the order in and have basically comfort food route. Like I know of one really, actually probably one of the fanciest restaurants in my area is a place called Mooney's. It's an Irish sort of pub style place, but they are famous, and by that I mean really famous for their for the mac and cheese section of their menu, because they put things in mac and cheese that you would not believe, like both in terms of the kinds of cheeses they use. It's not just generic cheddar, but also in terms of like the add-ins they have, and their portion sizes are fucking insane and also delicious. But mac and cheese is very much a comfort food. So like or pizza is very much a comfort food. So what's stopping a more frugal couple from ordering a pizza or ordering Mooney style mac and cheese? Which, by the way, I had the first and only time I've been there so far. I had the lobster mac and cheese, which was mozzarella cheese with lobster mixed in as mac and cheese. Oh my god, it was delicious. But even the half order, which is what I got, came in like this miniature cauldron of mac and cheese. It was fucking amazing. But that's neither here nor there. But point being, like some people prefer comfort food over fancy food. And yes, there is overlap. You can there are versions of comfort food that can be made fancier and fancy foods that are definitely comforting and so on. But my point is, what's stopping someone from having, their favorite comfort food ordered in, be it like clam chowder, be it something from Red Lobster, be it mac and cheese, be it whatever, and staying in and like watching movies together and so on. Like that seems like a much more romantic gesture, and also seems like even if you wind up spending the same amount of money, you get more out of it. Like, and that's the other thing of, as I keep saying, spend smarter, not harder. Make sure you get the most bang you can get out of your buck when you shop, because that way you can live in a somewhat luxurious way while still being, lower middle classish. And I'm telling you, this works because I dress in very aristocratic looking fucking clothes, but because I shop well and am thrifty, I can still manage to do that while me and my family are mostly, lower middle classish.
Like, huh.
All right, so this will be the last point we cover tonight.
All right. How big is this article?
We're on point 4, I think, and there are 8 points. So, yeah.
No, we're on point 3.
Fuck me running.
To be fair, we have gone sidetracked a lot, so.
This is true, but Jesus Christ, do these people love to hear themselves talk?
Pretty much. I'm actually impressed that they could I'm actually impressed that they could actually pull this much from such a hollow and shallow fucking argument.
Oh, you want to talk about writing a dissertation on a horrifying and shallow argument? I don't think you've ever been here when we've covered the Rewriting Ripley article, the Star Wars was infiltrated by the alt-right article from a couple of years ago.
God.
But we're still not done with the fucking thing, and we've devoted like 8 segments to it over the years.
Actually, I think 9 so far, or 10 maybe.
Yeah, we're not, and we're still not done with it. We'll spend 1 segment on it on days when we don't have anything else to cover, and we're still not done with the fucking thing. It's that lengthy and that cacophonously laden with stupid.
I think also the point of most of the time we try to avoid covering it wherever we can, just because of how stupid it is.
And I swear to God, the day we finish the fucking thing, I'm popping champagne. Seriously.
I might actually drink on that day.
It is the white whale of our channel. It is our reoccurring nemesis.
Anyway, so yeah, this is going to be our last point, and then
Alright, let's go.
something a little more happier.
Yeah.
Okay. There are high expectations for the night to be perfect, which is actually more likely to harm your relationship than help it.
Only if you are superficial enough that you don't give a fuck about your significant other.
Trina Vega from Victorious. Anyone seen that show?
I remember her. I'm not sure why you're revoking her here.
Shallow, vapid, doesn't appreciate when there's heartfelt things given to her.
Well, I was going more the Sharpay Evans from High School Musical route, but again, and I mentioned this earlier, but there are a couple reasons why putting that much effort into Valentine's Day would backfire on you. Option number one, your partner doesn't go for the traditional accoutrement of Valentine's Day and would much rather have something more personal.
Yeah.
And that's a reflection on you for not knowing your significant other in that case. Option two, they are a snooty bitch who poo-poos anything you do and perpetually wants more, which is why I evoke the Sharpay image of I want fabulous, etc. Or option three, you're both vapid, superficial cunts, and you're only doing these kind of dates on Valentine's Day for some kind of socially normative, performative bullshit. And in any case, the only way that these kind of extravagant displays of affection can backfire on you is if the relationship in question is more based on what the two of you get out of it than whether you actually give a shit about each other. I.e., maybe you just both aren't very good people in a lot of these cases. Because most people, when they're being pampered, when they're being luxuriated, are appreciative of it.
Pretty much. Sometimes, yeah. For the most part, yeah. I agree wholeheartedly.
The only people who aren't appreciative when they're being luxuriated are people who have more particular specific needs, which is possible, or people who are shallow and always want more than what they get, and will always belittle and poo-poo any efforts made to make them happy because it's not good enough.
Exactly. In which case, it's probably a good idea to see other people anyway.
Yeah, as the old saying goes, don't stick it in crazy. And someone who can be sitting in a 5-star restaurant that they were, driven in a limousine to, and a bunch of flowers and champagne are everywhere on the table. Someone who can look at that kind of effort and poo-poo it is the very definition of an entitled crazy bitch.
Never date crazy.
You do that all the time.
He said, well, almost all of his female relationships have been crazy.
Okay, I will say this: date crazy one time just to get the experience, and then never again.
And then make sure she can never find you when you leave her.
I feel like I have to learn moves from Barney Stinson in order to do that.
Just like some girls will fucking stalk you, and that shit is not fun, man. Like people,
I mean, Amber Heard may be a perfect example of this, but she is not alone in being the example of this.
Not at all. Like holy shit. Like ugh, God.
There's
When
more famous ones.
and and chicks will and sometimes chicks will have their friends stalk you too, which is equally just.
Yeah, the only difference between Amber Heard and a lot of people is she got caught.
Pretty much.
The shit she does.
Yeah. Anyway, for the record, that was just the title of this part. So.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Okay. Let's finish this off, and then we can move on to the list, the crack ship list.
There are lots of high expectations around Valentine's Day for couples, from the perfect gifts and the fanciest dinner to the notion of everlasting love and romance. It's a lot of pressure for two people on just one day of the year. Okay, so before, I feel like you guys have got some stuff to say, obviously. But
yeah, go ahead, Brainstormer.
Like I said, I said this earlier, but all that stress, but all these things, more or less, are often just self-inflicted of your own concepts and ideas and beliefs of Valentine's Day. So it's not really Valentine's Day's fault that you get super stressed out about all these things.
Yeah. Door number 2, and it relates to something I said last week. Most of that pressure should be coming from you personally, because most people feel the need to pamper and spoil their significant other, especially on days like Valentine's Day, because they care about them. And therefore that pressure comes from an internal, intrinsic locus rather than a social extrinsic locus, which is why you people frustrate and confuse me with regards to this, because you view the fact that you should have to display that you care about someone as though it is a burden. And more than that, you view it as entirely extrinsically inflicted upon you, rather than being generated internally from your own motivations. I.e., most people feel the need to pamper and spoil each other on Valentine's Day because they value and appreciate and want to be worthy of their significant other, and so they put the effort in to be worthy of their significant other. But you look at that and go, I would never do this if it were left up to me. Society makes me feel this way, and therefore it is a burden. Which says to me that you maybe shouldn't have a significant other for that significant other's own sake. Because if you view the obligation to give a shit about your partner as a burden, maybe you shouldn't have one? Just a thought.
Pretty much. Like, if you pretty much if you like if there's this large degree of pressure just from being in a relationship, just from Valentine's Day, then what does that say about the rest of your relationship? Honestly.
Yeah. What does it say about your other pretensions to care about your significant other? If you consider the opportunity to pamper and spoil them to be a burden, then what else do you consider a burden about being in a relationship with them? And moreover, because I know a lot of people who do hold things over their partners rather than treating it as a necessary part of their relationship. If you are one of those people who holds efforts you make for your partner over your partner, how much are you going to hold Valentine's Day over their heads?
Pretty much. It's like a lot of this, a lot of this, the a lot of this entire what do you want to call it, article just kind of seems like it's I don't know. It's hard to understand. I know where this person is coming. I hold on. Let me gather
Why
my
should
thoughts.
why
Go
should
ahead.
I have to put in the effort to be a basic human being one day out of the year?
Thank you, thank you. Like for some reason, I lost my train of thought and I couldn't articulate what I wanted to say. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Welcome back.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to fix something because I saw Dragon mention signal or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, just trying to figure out what was going on there.
No problem.
So, for anyone who doesn't know, I have kind of weird internet. So, I'm just.
That's what life on the moon gets you.
I'll be honest, it honestly sounds kind of terrifying to live on the moon.
Just stuck in the cold darkness of just like
No, you
space.
actually you think it would be it would be cold, and
Yeah.
I guess in some aspect it could be like in like the shadows and stuff, but it is actually incredibly hot given on the fact that there is a sun, which is a ball of pure fire.
Well, I mean, the moon's cold, dude. The moon's actually slightly further away from the sun than the Earth is. The moon's cold.
I'm just saying, like in the actual vacuum of space, it's technically not cold.
I mean, it depends on because you forget how much work the Earth's atmosphere does to keep us warm.
Yeah, but I meant in the vacuum of space.
No, in the vacuum of space, it's fairly cold because unless you're literally next to the sun, the heat dissipates because there's nothing to carry the heat. In most cases.
I'm. All right, whatever.
Alright.
I don't want to get into the sidetrack because we really need to.
Yeah, and yeah, let's finish this and then get to the crack ship this.
Right. Okay. All that pressure on relationships during Valentine's Day can actually harm relationships, even leading to breakups. A study tracking Facebook breakup statuses found that couples tend to break up more often after Valentine's Day.
If that be the case, that's because those relationships probably were in some way flawed to begin with. Because here's the thing: in happy, stable, mutually beneficial relationships, romantic gestures, get this, are appreciated by their partners. If that romantic gesture goes under or unappreciated, there are a couple reasons. Reason one, you put effort into the wrong thing and didn't think of your partner as an individual with their own individual desires and individual tastes. Option two, they put in as much effort as they were able to and you found fault with it because you wanted more. Or option three, you were being deliberately superficial and wanted the fancy smancy rom-com style Valentine's Day presentation, and they were unable to uh, live up to
Delivered
those
to you.
expectations.
Yeah.
In which case you're treating this as you're simultaneously vilifying the very notion of cause and effect while still simultaneously treating this like a transaction.
Yeah, I actually want to point something out.
What's up?
Well, okay, so I know I've mentioned these people before. I don't know if you've ever been here when I talked on. There were a couple friends I used to have in high school. I called them the Lovebirds. They
He
went.
was here. You mentioned them last week.
Well, they've been together since freshman year, and
Yeah.
I'm of the graduating same year as me, right? 2014, graduated 2018. I am really younger than you guys. I keep forgetting that.
Yes. I graduated in I graduated in 2013 and I left college in 2015.
I'm not gonna tell Brainstormer how old I am, but I am old.
You're you're supposed to be the oldest one here, right?
Yeah, I'm the oldest person here.
Okay, what year were you born? Now I'm curious.
I'm in my 30s.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah,
What,
I'm
wait,
27 and Brainstormer is
21, right?
23 now, right?
Oh, 23. Did I not come off that? Did I not come off that old?
Uh, I assumed late 20s, like maybe a year older than Dalton or something.
No.
To be fair, you don't technically act that age in terms of stereotype.
It's harsh.
Am I wrong?
Ooh, ooh,
Harsh.
no, it's in the category of funny because it's true. Anyway,
Um,
moving forward.
right. What I was gonna say was, I mean, to be fair, Facebook relationships or relationship status on Facebook are not really what's the word gauge of healthy or good relationships.
Pretty
Mhm.
much, yeah. Like,
Um,
I'm not going to say that online relationships aren't valid or substantive. They are, but
it's a lot of work, right?
yeah, it's a lot of work to have like an online relationship. It's
Yeah, I can attest to this. My first real boyfriend and I met um just before COVID happened, and he lived in New York City, and I of course live out in the most rural part of northern Pennsylvania. Um, we we gave it the old college try. We lasted a year, but we ended up breaking things off just because we couldn't we
be
couldn't
together.
meet up in person, and it was causing all sorts of interpersonal commitment drama and shit. So yeah,
Yeah.
Um,
that, and he still lived with his ex, so that also made it an issue. But eh.
um, I was mentioning the Lovebirds.
Yeah.
They're one of the longest. Well, minus my grandparents, they are one of the longest relationships I have known my whole life. In my whole life, nearly.
There's
If they started dating in 2014, about another year, they'll be together for 10 years. I don't know if they got married yet because the boy, the guy I knew, did propose to her senior year. Uh, but yeah, my point what I was getting at was they. It's a weird example on the fact that they are. Uh, I am a millennial, right? Like my generation.
yes, you are a
No,
millennial.
you're a Zoomer.
Oh yeah, you are a Zoomer. Oh yeah, you're a Zoomer. You're right.
You were born in '99. That officially makes you a Zoomer.
Oh yeah, yeah,
The
my bad.
cutoff for millennial is like 1995.
Okay,
Yeah, my bad. You're a Zoomer.
sorry. I never. It's so difficult to keep track of.
Well,
Um,
I'm a millennial, but I'm an older millennial.
And I'm like right on the edge of millennial because I think the cutoff is either 1995 or 1996, and I was born in July of 1995.
I,
So I'm
there.
like one of the very last millennials.
So my point was being that a lot of Zoomer or Gen Z relationships these days never really seem to work out for a multitude of reasons.
To be fair, that's been a long running problem ever since Gen X. Like even our parents' generation have a tendency not to stay together.
That's
So
okay, fair. I'm just saying, to my knowledge, a lot of Gen Z relationships never work out because a lot of problems, a lot of issues. Uh, but they are kind of breaking the mold in that sense. Since again, they've been together for 10 years, or will be at least.
Let me see.
yeah, good for them.
Yeah, I still, I'm still somewhat jealous because, like, again, they're the type of couple that you're happy for them, but also you are.
They rub your nose and how into each other they are, basically.
They don't even try. They're not even trying to do that. It's just like,
It's just that like when they're together, you can't help but like grit your teeth because their love is just so blinding.
yeah. Every time they were together, they would always be cuddling. They would always be close to one another. It was adorable, but also frustrating because
Yeah, it's like
I have that.
I'm happy for your happiness, but still fuck your happiness because I'm over here miserable. Yeah.
Yeah, just I made a lot of jokes at their expense about that. So
That actually reminds me of an episode of Seinfeld when Jerry has a girlfriend who's like that with, and Elaine and George both make fun of it. Um, in
yeah,
any case, let's move on.
yeah, we gotta finish this.
All right.
Further, as Jonathan Fader, PhD, writes for Psychology Today, high expectations are more likely to set us up for disappointment, especially if those expectations are for one single day. Yeah, no shit. That's just common knowledge, isn't it?
Yeah, things that we should already know for 800 there, Alex.
Pretty much, yeah.
But here's the thing: your expectations are to some extent your business. I.e., if you want the you know rom-com style, we kissed and then the doves took off and the romantic music started playing, if you want that, well, goody for you, dear. There's a year in between Valentine's days. If you want that kind of romantic gesture, you might try, just maybe, explaining to your significant other that that's the kind of Valentine's Day you want. And then they can spend the year in between Valentine's days figuring out how to make that happen for you. But if you never tell anyone what you want or even imply to someone what you want, then they're basically going to have to intuit or rationalize based on what they know of you what you want. And if what they offer for you isn't romantic enough, then you need to be a fucking adult and explain this to them.
Pretty
And
much.
or maybe, just maybe, be grateful for what you do get from them.
So this conversation kind of jostled free the thought that I had in my head that I can articulate.
Mhm.
a lot of this article comes from, at least sounds like it comes from like personal insecurity with Valentine's Day, and this is just one giant like plea to
Her
rationalize.
Valentine's Days make her miserable. Therefore it's Valentine's Day's fault.
Exactly. It just comes from. It just seems like it comes from somebody else's misery, and like this is why it's a bad day. Never mind that the problems with the day are pretty much my fault.
You know what's weird?
What's that?
If I had read this article when I was 14 or 15, because I will not lie, at that time I was kind of an edgy shit.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. We all went through our edgy phases as teenagers.
Wait. Were you like on? Were you like the 14? This is deep Reddit. Were you like that?
I was never not at that time. I wasn't on Reddit.
No, what I mean by that is like, so there's this subreddit called this 14 and this is deep, and it's basically like what you expect, like opinions from 14-year-olds that are like really edgy and
Uh,
poorly thought out, basically
okay,
like
so
that.
how I guess it also depends on how I myself defined edgy.
Uh,
Uh, Believe it or not, I wasn't always the optimist that I am now.
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, that makes sense. You do have a very Punisher-esque backstory there, my friend.
Right. Uh, yeah, I just kind of saw things as a bit not nihilistic, but grim at least. And I was I was very much a loner. I didn't have really a lot of friends, and the friends I did have was very, I wouldn't say superficial, but we weren't
You were mopey.
super close. Yeah, I was very mopey.
Mhm.
And Valentine's Day kind of brought that mopiness even more so out. Uh,
I I can relate to that. I mean, the whole reason I met my ex is because I was having that Valentine's Day mopey feeling of like I'm worthless and no one will ever care about me, grr feeling. And I tried to soothe this by going on dating apps, which, by the way, never soothe the Valentine's Day blues with dating apps. It never goes well.
Really, it just makes you angry.
I've never been on a dating app, and given the guys who have been on, people who have been on dating apps, talk to me about it. Specifically, you two.
It's not worth it, dude. It's
Yeah.
really not worth it. Like I said,
Uh,
I met someone who I was with for a year on a dating app, and that's the best I've ever managed on a dating app,
all
and it
right.
was still absolutely miserable. So
I
yeah.
have I have a bit of a contrarian opinion to that, just a little bit. It depends. So it's kind of a bleak opinion, but here goes. So it depends on the type of person you are. If you're somebody who's like outgoing and you feel like you're fairly attractive, yeah, like and you make a little bit of money for yourself, yeah, you'll be successful on dating apps. But even still, it's really hard because you have to compete against a shitload of other people who are kind of in that same realm,
Here's
and that competition is very fierce.
yeah.
So yeah, it can be hard.
Here's the other half of that, which is if you want a meaningful long-term relationship, do not seek it from dating apps because because this is what always depresses me worse when I go on dating apps is every motherfucker who claims to like me, who claims to want a relationship with me, etc. They all are interested in one night stands or alternatively sugar babies. I cannot begin to count the times some older you know overweight gentleman has wanted to pay me to to be his boy toy basically, and it is creepy as fuck. Like every time it just makes me feel like every time someone offers, I always feel like a bought whore, and it disgusts me. Um, but that's neither here nor there. My point is, I always went on dating apps with the intention of finding someone who I could spend the rest of my life with. And nine times out of 10, what people wanted from me was one night stands, which I despise, and or sugar baby status, and it disgusts me. So that's the other aspect of dating apps. Never go on a dating app seeking a long-term relationship, no matter how many times someone puts long-term relationship oriented in their profile, because still, and this is something that I acknowledge with the filters, because I specifically filtered out people looking for long-term relationships on my dating app profiles, and yet, even though according to the app they all had long-term relationship in their profile information, they still only wanted to bang, and it was hopeless.
The problem is the problem is that like hookup culture is very popular with in gay culture. So it's hard
I'm
to
aware.
find somebody. It's hard to find somebody who actually wants like a committed relationship. And a lot of the people who do want committed relationships tend to be older guys who have already had who are over their like swinger days and shit. And if you're a younger person and you're not interested in an older guy, like your
Yeah,
odds
I
seem kind of bad.
and maybe that's just me, but I would never. I Not only would I never date anyone like older, like maybe 35, because the other thing is I tend to prefer younger guys. Like I tend to prefer someone who's like 18 to 25, and
Yeah,
I'm 27.
yeah.
Um, but like, not only would I never date anyone over around 35. If I make it to 35 and I'm still a virgin, I'm just going to give up and realize that I'm never going to find anyone, because I wouldn't expect the kind of person that I want to fall in love with me to be interested in someone over 35.
I mean, like it depends. You can find relationships like that. It's just they're much harder because like a
Um,
lot of gay dudes really don't like the age gap thing is kind of weird in like gay culture.
guys,
Yeah,
So
when I just as much as
back
this
on
seems,
topic.
yeah,
yeah.
all right.
Okay, last part of this, and then we'll move on. Uh, Thinking about Valentine's Day as the special day reserved for showing love can also take away from daily practices of love and appreciation, according to Peter. I mean, okay, I've mentioned that before. Granted, again, I don't think we should like cancel Valentine's Day, which is kind of what this article is implying. Uh,
And my counter argument to that stands as Valentine's Day doesn't mean you only have to show love and affection to your significant other one day out of the year. It means you should be doing romantic gestures for your significant other whenever possible. It's just Valentine's Day is the day you have permission to go that one extra mile. Just like Christmas, you can get people gifts or be appreciative of hearth and home every day out of the year, but during the Christmas season, it's specifically earmarked to pay attention to that. And
Uh,
Halloween is the same thing. You can always have respect for the dark and whimsical parts of both nature and human nature, but Halloween is specifically earmarked for that kind of reverence.
yeah, it's more of a celebration of that aspect of like of a person more so than and that's exemplified by that day. It's just a
Yeah,
celebration.
holidays exist to highlight things that you always should be doing on some level, but exist to kind of earmark and amplify those tendencies.
that's fair.
Exactly.
Again, my personal stance on it obviously is like I'm not saying it isn't an important day. I just personally think for myself and my significant other that it is ultimately up to us to make every day feel like Valentine's Day, basically.
Uh-huh.
Every day is magical with you, babe.
I'm never gonna say that.
You and your significant other are going to drive. You and your significant other are probably going to drive me nuts. Then
Oh,
again, if I ever get a significant other, I fully intend to drive everyone nuts with how into each other we are.
I just,
That is
I,
one of my goals.
I just,
So
I just imagine that I already have an idea of my relationship status. I'll just die alone from multiple one night stands. There you go.
I really hope not. As your friend, I think that would be kind of sad, but
There you go.
you do you.
Multiple one night stands and plenty of benders. There we go.
Corrupt has an orgy heart attack. Just like right after the orgy, he just collapses from a heart attack, and that's the end of Corrupt.
Also, I've said this before, but like poly relationships can be really boring. I imagine that'll be my life story. Poly relationships and just boring one night stands. There you go.
not generally.
Unfortunately, that's plausible for you, Corrupt. I still hope you find someone worth keeping, though, because
I could see that. I could see myself finding somebody who's just like for me. Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. Like nothing against those people who do those types of relationships. I just personally myself cannot see myself doing that.
I mean, the only circumstance in which I would allow for a polyamorous relationship is if I could have like one guy and one girl. That way, both my romantic sides would be accounted for.
Hey, that's what I did. There you go. I did that.
Because I am technically bisexual. I just massively prefer men generally. So
Me too.
if I wind up with a monogamous relationship, I'd much rather it be a dude rather than a girl. But if I could have one of each, then so much better would be my thing.
Me too. What did you say, Brainstormer?
Never change, Corrupt. Never change.
Anyway, let's get back into the article so we can finish this and then move on to the list, which should be more
I
fun.
thought we were finished with the article by now.
I figured we stop like halfway and finish the rest of it next week.
Mhm.
Yes.
All right. I'd say coin flip, but there are three of us, so who wants to go first for their ships?
I'll go last.
Of course.
You can go first, Brainstormer.
I was gonna say we could do this alphabetically, so Dalton would go first, but you have a the in the so.
Wait, you'd go by our titles rather than our actual names. Because I think I would wind up still going first because your name begins with a K, my name begins with a D, and I'm not sure about Corrupt's name.
I've never told you my name.
No.
Really? I've known you for 5 years.
I know it confuses me sometimes, but you didn't ever bring it up, and I didn't want to push it. So
do I never tell people you have my phone number?
Yeah, but it didn't sync up with any existing contacts or anything. You didn't, and you never mentioned your name.
Oh my god!
You said you would eventually, and then eventually just never showed up. So like in your contact on my phone, I literally just put to be announced, and then in parentheses I put corrupt.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I told you my name.
You did not know. But that's for later, obviously, because you don't want to dox yourself on stream.
I'll tell you my name after the stream is over.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess I'll go first then. Kind of figured I would anyway, so.
I mean, you're the leader of the stream here, so.
Yeah, true.
The burden.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so my first one, I'll be honest, this one's kind of cheating because it technically was built up in the actual show or property it was in. Agent Washington and Carolina from Red versus Blue.
Let me see. Oh, hey, I remember this show.
It was good for a while, and then it kind of got shit. I'm gonna be honest. Tends to happen. Okay, so how do let's explain this. To be fair, this was a relatively new development in recent years. that they're kind of it's never implied, but so these two characters come from a thing within the show's lore called Project Freelancer, which was trying to create super soldiers with AI armor enhanced things.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of shit and corruption started to happen within the program, and a lot of people died, including Carolina's former lover, Agent York, who was a good friend to Washington as well. Carolina for a while was, you could argue, antagonist for the show. A bitch.
The bitch.
Yeah, the bitch, actually. Yeah, she was the bitch. They're both badass soldiers, and they have they got a lot of development for that show. They're actually like some of the characters in the show that have gotten legit development throughout the series. Washington was a guy who really couldn't trust a lot of people, but trusted like a group of idiots that got screwed over too, and were just generally good people, relatively. And he learned how to trust and just kind of found redemption from being kind of an asshole before. Carolina she got a lot of issues. One thing, the director who was a major villain within the show was her father, and so she was constantly competing for his attention and love. And it's just a lot of complicated things. I'm trying to keep this as succinct as possible, just on the fact that I could spiral into a whole thing trying to explain every tiny detail. But these two basically became friends for a while, and relatively, like season 15 or something, they started to develop a relationship through like all the battles and stuff they've been through. And Carolina, I guess, she's learning to move on from her past and the damage she's done. And it helped hanging around with like the Reds and Blues and Wash, and just kind of learning to forgive herself. And they're both like they are both like broken soldiers, so they had that in common, and just like these really intimate moments that were written in the show. Like even when there were terrible seasons, like just fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Those moments between them were some of the best written and emotionally charged and just well even acted by the voice actors. Like, yeah, it's gonna be weird. In one of the recent seasons, Washington got injured and became, in a way, concussed to the point he had problems with his mind.
Ooh, did they do the amnesia subplot?
No. Brain damage.
Oh, well.
I mean, there was slight amnesia, like he kept repeating some stories and stuff, but it wasn't like too and like emotional.
It wasn't the stereotypical soap opera amnesia.
Almost like memory gaps, memory lapse.
Okay.
And also sometimes losing his temper or emotional instability, I guess. And she was just kind of being there for him. And again, like they haven't shown a lot of it because, like I said, it's relatively a new development for the characters, but it is well made. Yeah, it was a very subtle thing, Dragon Control. Like they kept it subtle. Like they never tried to like make it outright a thing, which I appreciated. Like it's like out of these two, they are actually the more, because most of the characters are like either caricatures or very bombastic personalities. These two are actually the most regular people, even though they were like badass space soldiers. And yeah, it kind of sucks that they never really did much with it, but what they did do with it worked. And the reason why I put it on a crack ship here, and again, I do realize it is cheating because it technically is canon, is originally when they were introduced, never really came off that they could develop into a relationship, but
Yeah.
like just really good friends, you know, which would have been fun. But yeah.
I see where you're coming from, Brainstormer.
Yeah, there are like some scenes of these two that I will not lie, I get somewhat emotional by. Like thinking of them now, my eyes are kind of getting a little watery.
Uh-huh.
Well, that must have been a good scene if it made you water, if it made your eyes watery.
Yeah. But yeah, that is kind of my first crack ship. Again, I do realize I'm somewhat cheating, so.
Okay, so now my number one.
Yeah, give me
Doctor
one.
Strange and Swamp Thing. There you go. I guess Dalton saw
They're
it.
not even in the same universe. What the actual fuck?
To be fair, a crack ship doesn't have to be in the same universe.
I
Exactly.
know, but like it at least has to be somewhat plausible within the
Come
context.
on, like fucking Swamp Thing straddles Doctor Strange, and he's just like, I want you to
Okay,
treat me
first
like
of
a
all,
woman.
it would be Man Thing in the Marvel universe, but
Uh,
regardless, my first crack ship is Rumpelstiltskin and Korra from Once Upon a Time. And in order to explain why Rumpelstiltskin and Korra work so well in Once
okay,
Upon a
I
Time,
thought you said Dora at first, as in Dora the
no,
Explorer, and
no,
that would have gone on.
Korra as in Regina's mother and the miller's daughter.
Damn, she can get this. Oh shit.
But in any case, in order to explain why Rumple and Korra work so well, I have to explain why the actual canonical ship that the audience is supposed to root for in Once Upon a Time sucks horribly and is actually an abusive relationship. Which is the eponymous Rump Bell or Rumpelstiltskin and Bell ship, because in Once Upon a Time, Rumpelstiltskin is also the Beast in Beauty and the Beast, so they forced him and Belle to be a thing. Anyway, the reason why I prefer Rora or Rumple and Korra to Rump Bell is Rumple and Korra actually seem to give a shit about each other for who they are, whereas Belle is always only seemingly interested in who Rumple could be. If he gives up his powers and becomes a good person, then he could be worth it. If I keep the dagger and control him, then he could be good. If this, if that, if the other, he could be someone worth caring about. With Korra, though, that was never an issue. They both had they both had inclinations toward dark magic. They both enjoyed each other's company, and they were into each other in the same way that like Gomez and Morticia almost are, although in a slightly darker and less wholesome way. Um, and they didn't resent or regret each other's darker impulses. In fact, they nurtured them. Unlike Belle, who, the moment that Rumpelstiltskin, the Dark One, does anything remotely dark with his powers, which he can't help but use because they literally infect him on the inside, she treats it like the most epic betrayal in the world, even if he's doing it for her or on her behalf, and or if he's doing something which is only marginally like dark or sketchy in any way. But with Rumple and Korra, they revel in each other's sense of humor, in each other's darkness, in each other's skills, in just being with each other. Also, something worth noting: Rumple and Korra, Rumple and Belle, apart from the occasional cheesy romantic kiss when the plot calls for it, are never actually physically into each other. Like they don't have a hard time keeping their hands off each other. They don't feel the need to cuddle. They don't feel the need to be together. Rumpelstiltskin and Korra, on the other hand, in the episode "The Miller's Daughter," which is the episode where their backstory is explained, the second time Rumple meets Cora, he just immediately swoops in and starts making out with her, and she starts flirting with him, and then they dance together, and then like they start making jokes back and forth with each other. It's so glorious, and the only reason they don't work together, or because they don't actually become canon in Once Upon a Time, is mostly because Cora is momentarily an idiot because the writer says so. Because Cora, as per the title of the episode, The Miller's Daughter, as you can imagine, was born a miller's daughter and wanted to marry a prince. So she lies and says that she can turn straw into gold. Again, this is basically a play on the original Rumpelstiltskin fairy tale. So the king locks her in a tower and forces her to spin straw into gold, yada, yada, yada. Then Rumpelstiltskin shows up, but unlike the original fairy tale, where he spins it for her and then there's the whole thing about the baby and yada, 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 she insists that rather than doing it for her, she teaches him how to do it herself. And so he takes her as an apprentice. And in the course of them being apprenticed to each other, they get intimate and fall in love, and it's a really fancy romantic thing. Anyway, as per the arrangement with the king, she spins the star into gold, as you do, and then she gets to marry the prince. And the king tells her that he knows about Rumpelstiltskin and that they are actually in love with each other, and that if she runs away with him, she'll never have people kneel before her, which is what Cora's main motivation is. She gets sick of being disrespected by people in higher stations from her, and so she wants to use the magic that Rumple is teaching her to force people to kneel before her. And like that is one of the main things that Rumpelstiltskin and she have in common, is they bond over the motivations for why they study dark magic. You would think, though, being as Rumpelstiltskin is the Dark One and is fully enamored with Cora, that he would teach her how to make people kneel, like as a wedding present if they ran off together. But no, for some reason, Cora believes the king that she'll never be able to get people to kneel before her, if she runs away with Rumple, and so she rips out her own heart to prevent herself from having feelings for him. And that's the only reason why she ends up rejecting him, and then Rumple years later falls in love with Belle, and she is this nagging, moralizing cunt the entire time.
Nagging, moralizing cunt. I love that.
No, she is, because she wants to date the Dark One, but the moment he does anything dark, even if he's doing it as a romantic gesture for her, she flips shit. And in particular this one time, after they got married, she catches him killing or trying to kill one of his nemesis. So she takes out the dagger that he is bound to, the enchanted dagger that gives him the power of the Dark One, and forces him to leave Storybrooke, which is the only place in the world at this point that he can access magic. Now, mind you, Rumpelstiltskin is crippled because of an injury he sustained back when he was a mortal human. So she forces him out of Storybrooke with the dagger. Mind you, this dagger can control him in just about any way you can imagine. So she could literally ask him to do anything she wants with this dagger. Like, for example, Dark One, I command you to be good. End of issue. But no, instead, she rejects him entirely, forces him out of town where he has no magic and where he is crippled, and swears that she never wants to see him again. Now, mind you, the main reason he was doing this thing was because Hook, his nemesis, was blackmailing him into doing it, and he was sick of putting up with the blackmail. So, never mind that he had perfectly valid reasons for doing this thing. Never mind that he wasn't hurting her or anyone else in town. Never mind that he wasn't abusing his powers in any significant way. He was just taking the initiative to stop someone from blackmailing him, which also probably would have led to someone hurting her. So, and for this, no magic, no assistance with walking. Just she doesn't even give him his cane that he needs to walk without his Dark One powers either. That's that other thing. He like forces her to take her. He like forces her to take them to the town line, which is the cut off for where magic exists, and then doesn't give him any of his supplies. Doesn't give him any of. He doesn't. She doesn't even give him a spare set of clothes or any like luggage or anything. And she doesn't give him his cane that he needs to walk without magic. She's just like, Rumpelstiltskin, Dark One, I force you to leave Storybrooke and never return, and I never want to see you again. It's the most infuriating thing ever. But mind you, Cora, even while her heart is ripped out, therefore she can't feel anything, she's still affectionate with him. So yeah, no, the canonical Rump Bell ship sucks, and he should have wound up with Cora because they are actually romantic with each other.
Because it seems like she doesn't really appreciate him at all, and if anything, she abuses her power over him, basically.
Yeah, she only loves him for what he could be and never for what he is. And even when they are being romantic, in the scenes where they're being romantic, they're never into each other. And part of that might just be that their actors have no chemistry, whereas Rumpel and Rose McGowan, who plays the younger Cora in the Miller's Daughter episode in the flashbacks, actually seem to have a lot of chemistry. But in any case, Belle only wants him as a means to an end, and even then doesn't even want him as him. She just wants him because the plot says so, basically. I don't even know why really she loves him ostensibly in the show. It's just we're doing Beauty and the Beast, so the beauty has to fall for the person we say is the Beast, basically. Anyway, that's but Rora is awesome. Rump Bell sucks. That's the long and the short of it.
All
right. So now Corrupts number 1.
right. Alright, so this is Arachne and Asura, basically. They're from Soul Eater. So I'll basically explain this relationship here. So Arachne is the mother of what are called demon weapons, right? They're people who are more or less can transform into weapons that allow them to kill and purify souls that have been corrupted, right? And Asura here was one of those people that use weapons to like purify corrupted souls. A long time ago, he became overwhelmed by his own fear of death, and then he became evil. Yada yada yada. Anyway, so what I like about their relationship is the fact that they have she seduces him after like appealing to him and tries to and though their relationship is more of like one where she pretends to be motherly towards him and shit to she seduces him and pretends to what's up Brainstormer.
I didn't say anything.
Something in the background is echoing off your mic then.
Yeah, basically she seduces him and they have like a really interesting relationship dynamic where he feels like comfortable and safe with her while she is manipulating him. And despite the manipulative implications, I quite like that type of display of their relationship because it seemed very much like they could have actually done something with it, instead of the way that it ended, which was him realizing her betrayal. But beyond that, though, I quite liked it. I thought this was actually a cool little relationship of two, like, supremely, like, for the most part, evil beings that kind of came together out of a mutual desire for something and, like, were in formed like a union, even if it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
a little bit.
Rumple and Cora were that same kind of thing. Like I kept thinking of the line, "The family that slays together stays together."
Yes. Are you referring to Belle or Emma Watson?
No. I was referring to the Belle, the Australian version of Belle, and yes, Belle is Australian for some reason. Once Upon a Time, from Once Upon a Time, the one that wants to redeem the Dark One, but doesn't ever want to put any work into redeeming the Dark One, and also doesn't want to let him actually be the Dark One, even while she finds his power attractive. So
Wait, Belle found his power attractive?
some of the time, like when they were first getting together, she found his power somewhat attractive, and then immediately just forgets about it every other time they're together. Is like, honestly, there was a time where Belle lost her memory and a new personality emerged called Lacey. I thought they even were a better match than Rumple and Belle were. But ultimately, I think the best relationship Rumple ever had wasn't with Mila, who was his original first wife back when he was mortal, and wasn't with Belle. It was with Cora. And part of that might just be that the episode "The Miller's Daughter," where they established that relationship, is one of the best episodes of Once Upon a Time. Period. But that's not here nor there.
His comment on Belle, the nice comment describing Belle. Yeah, but yeah, like that's pretty much it. Like I also I really liked, like I said, like I was saying, I really liked the relationship between these two characters, even
Mm-hmm.
if it was hugely predatory. Even if it was one benefiting off of the other. I really like
I
that.
mean, family that slays together stays together, as the old saying goes.
Exactly. All right. Anyway, we can go on to yours, Brainstormer.
All right. Okay. Uh, my number 2 is Batman and Harley Quinn.
Oh, really? You like that
All
relationship?
right, so
That was my reaction too. I'm like, what?
okay, so it's very specific kind of Harley Quinn. Well, in terms of characterization, not more modern versions, obviously, but kind of more leaning classic. Paul Dini and Bruce Timm.
Mm-hmm.
While also, I guess, kind of the influences of like, I guess I started to see it a bit when I read like White Knight, the White Knight continuity. If anyone knows that comic, and
Yes.
this is the best image I could find of them without like going in of it. So my and I kind of tried to because I talked to Dolan on Thursday about this a bit. Um, how do I say? It? So Batman's life is very intense and crazy. And for the record, this is something I've heard someone else speak about. Why like Batman and Catwoman should be together, but I think it can work the correlation with Harley and Bruce, or Harleen and Bruce. Batman's life is very crazy, very intense, and hardcore, and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that makes him trying to date like regular women, like average people that are not like superheroes or other crazy people like him.
Goes
Very
badly.
difficult. Yeah. So you kind of need someone to match that kind of craziness and intensity. Usually that's Catwoman, but I think Harley Quinn could also work too, because well, she has a thing for like intense and extreme personalities. Case in point, Joker. But I'm also going off
I
to
kind of want this to happen just to see the Joker's reaction when she leaves him for Batman.
but also because Harleen is also a psychiatrist, and if she is that kind of redemption point as well.
You mean like when she was Harleen Quinzel and not Harley?
Either or could work. I mean, she still has the skills of a psychiatrist. I feel like that's a weird thing people always tend to forget when they write that character now, is she is still a psychiatrist.
Instead of just like crazy female Joker who's slightly
Yeah,
gay.
just the Joker's ditzy cheerleader girlfriend, basically.
Yes. So she could actually kind of be very helpful for a psychological standpoint for Bruce.
I mean, she could also make it
weird enough,
1,000
I'm
times
actually
worse, but do go on.
true. But I'm being optimistic here. Okay.
Someone has to
Holy shit, hell!
What? What happened?
Some mice ran right by me.
Insert obligatory condemned building joke, and we're moving on.
Okay, everyone has fucking mice in their house.
A mouse ran by you?
In the walls, dude. In the walls, not in the or on the fucking floor.
No, it was on the floor, and there were two of them.
I like how Dalton was like, not on the floor, and then Brainstorm was like, no, it was on the floor, and then Dalton just sort of
Yeah, I know.
forced-
That's exactly my point, dude. Like, yes, most people have either squirrels or mice in the walls at some point, but they remain in the walls usually.
And Dalton just kind of 404'd when Brainstormer was like,
Like, yes, that's the point.
Anyway, okay, so I do agree Bruce Wayne is Batman's mask and Bruce Wayne's the cop. Yes and no. It's a whole thing. Just I don't want to get into that specifically. Specifically here, again, like I think both are beneficial to each other in terms of helping them both mentally, spiritually, and it honestly could be a more healthier relationship than other relationships Batman's had. I think.
I mean, yes, but I mean, that bar is not exactly the highest thing in the universe. I mean,
also
the longest term relationship he had was with the son of or the daughter of Ra's al Ghul, who raped him and conceived a child without his knowledge for 5 years.
pretty much, yeah.
To be fair, that was a weird thing on the fact that originally, like earlier comics, it was that Talia gave up the child for adoption, and it was consensual sex. But Grant Morrison retconned that.
I mean, I can kind of see why, because I can't see her having Bruce Wayne's child and then giving it up for adoption. Then again, I would have preferred no bat rape, but that's just me.
Again, that's a more recent thing. I'm not saying it's obviously stupid and fucked up.
I mean, I'm of two minds on it though, because it's one of the most clear-cut examples in comics of a woman raping a man, and we don't get, sadly enough, as much as we probably overrepresent rape periods, we don't really often get females raping men, so maybe that's a good thing to point out.
I'm not getting into that. And again, I'm also kind of basing this off the White Knight continuity, where they actually do have a relationship. Not initially, it is built up, but apparently in Batman and Beyond the White Knight, which is like the Batman Beyond of the White Knight universe, they are married, Bruce and Harleen.
I mean, good for them.
So it's
Dalton.
Yeah. So, and again, I'll be honest, ships are not really my thing, so I was just trying to go off what I know specifically. So,
hey,
I bet we'd have a better time doing a worse ships list next time.
Don't feel bad, Brainstormer. Dude, it took me forever to come up with ideas for crack ships. So, right. And when I say forever, I mean it literally took me forever, bro.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you sent me the list
literally just last night. So
yeah.
Anyway, let's do
yours, right? All right, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Silver Surfer and Doctor Doom. There you go. Bring it.
No.
Come at me, Dalton.
Now this
No.
one, when Dalton first told me this one, I found this super weird.
Soren and Callum from the Dragon Prince.
Have you seen that show, Crook?
No, I have not. How is it?
It's not bad.
It's kind of the spiritual successor to Avatar that Korra probably should have been but wasn't. Anyway, yeah, Soren and Callum are just adorable together. And yes, Soren does fit my mold of like the big burly sort of jockey type character, and then of course Callum is the more clumsy-ish nerdy type character. So I have a type of relationship that I like. Excuse me. But yeah, these two. When Brainstormer told me, when we looked up what the definition of frackship was, I was like, okay, so I'm definitely putting these two together because they would work so well as a couple. And in fact, I think if Dragon Prince could get away with this, I think Callum and Soren have a better romantic track record possibility than even he and Rayla do, and certainly more than he and Claudia would. Although the love triangle there, where Callum is dating Soren and Claudia feels ejected, would be hilarious as hell.
Right. So I guess my issue was with this, based on the knowledge I've seen from the show, that I mostly see them as like brothers.
Which I find a little odd because it seems weird to me to watch their scenes and think brothers rather than just friends even. But then again, I guess it might just be a difference in how Brainstorm and I process affection-based scenes. Because obviously in canon they're just friends, but especially given the very stereotypical gay dominance hierarchy they have or would have, if they both swung that way, their relationship would be amazing.
All right. And what I mean by brothers, obviously, I mean like friends that have like a familial bond, like brothers. So yeah, it's just
the problem I have with seeing that is Soren's confidence in himself is so flirtatious that I can't not see it as him flirting.
To be fair, you are very gay, so
he is very gay. Yes,
fair enough, but yes, the like especially the scenes in the beginning where Soren is kind of throwing Callum around, is very much how a top flirts with a bottom. So I can't unsee it.
So here's my thing, right? It's like I can get that. Like I've not seen the show, so I don't have like any ability to really give any substantive commentary.
You should watch it. Although one warning I will give you before you watch it: the first 3 seasons are not actual seasons; they're arcs that for some reason exist in separate seasons rather than just one longer season, which always frustrates me.
All right, but I will say that there is kind of like. So I get where both of you are coming from. Like on one hand, you can see the banter between them as like brotherly, but I guess if you're gay, you can also kind of interpret things to be more flirtatious than they might be otherwise to someone who's not,
And that's fair. It like I think the scene between Soren and Callum is literally like one of the first scenes in the entire show.
What's
correct me if I'm wrong.
the one that encapsulates their flirting to you? Like, or at least what you see is them flirting.
Well, it kind of happens every time they interact, which is why I find this such a convenient match. But also like their first scene together, which is also one of the first scenes in the entire show, is like Callum is running off to do something, and like Soren like stops him and just like jokingly throws him around, and it's so goddamn cute. I can't unsee it.
I think I know what you're talking about, but again, maybe it's just me not reading the gay, I guess. That
Yeah,
just seems like
Brainstormer doesn't have a gaydar, which is fair.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I can see where both of you are coming from. Like some
I'm not
people,
that's
some
like I'm
some
not
people.
disagreeing.
No,
Dalton,
no,
I'm just like pointing
no.
out that's
I
not
know. No, I know what you're saying. What I'm saying is that I guess I can see where you're both coming from. I guess some people interpret like friendly banter as like flirtation. You know?
Well, it is it's not just the fact of the friendly banter. It's also the very physical element of it, and also the way Soren playfully playfully brags. I can't speak today about how awesome he is while he does it. It's just so like it like all it would take is a wink and it would be a flirting scene. Like all Soren would have to do is wink at Callum and it would definitely be a flirting scene canonically.
I
All right, hold on.
you know what, I feel like we're just gonna go in circles here.
Yeah, but
So
in any case, yes. If we're talking about crack ships, which are somewhat in universe implausible, then not only is this kind of is this a good ship in my opinion, but it's also a model for most of my other ships on this list because most of the time when I think of crack ships, I think of okay, so which characters that are canonically at least coded straight am I going to end up shipping together? Because that's the easiest way I can to crack the canon without making it seem too implausible. So Corrupt's next one then.
All right.
give me a second. I'll be honest, man, your list was weird.
It was. I wanna make one replacement to the third one that I sent you. Actually,
Okay,
not the third one. Not the third one. The fourth one.
okay. Check Twitter real quick then.
All right, hold on. Let me see. Uh, let me send you some. Here we go. Hold on. I'll send you some pictures. All right. In the meantime, you can go with this one.
That's your number one, right?
Yeah, that's the second one. Yeah, the second one that I sent you. You can go with that one.
So
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, like there was from the animated series, right? Apocalypse and Mystique teamed up, and I thought they had really good chemistry.
to be fair, I couldn't find an image of that. I just found every time I typed in X-Men Apocalypse and Mystique.
It's this
it was
shitty movie that I hate.
yeah, I really
It's
I
a
really hated the reboot timeline just in general. Like I
such
could
a shit movie.
they really should have just given the rights back to Marvel back when after X-Men Origins Wolverine bombed horribly like it should have.
Let me see. Like it was a really shitty fucking movie. But anyway, like I don't know if Brainstormer's seen that episode, but there's like several times where like Mystique and Apocalypse have teamed up, and I really love their chemistry together. And I feel like they both sort of have a weird dynamic with each other that I appreciate. Even if Apocalypse is like this megalomaniac, like Mystique has the same sort of like just amoral sort of deviousness to her. and the fact that they're both shapeshifters also sort of complements
family that
like,
slays together stays together kind of thing.
exactly, yeah. They both have this sort of like deviousness to each other, and the fact that they're both what do you call it, like shapeshifters, just sort of fits their theme.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Like-
I've never.
Like,
I was
have you
gonna say,
seen the animated TV show?
Okay, so the first one I remember seeing of X-Men is X-Men Evolution.
That's not the
I've-
one we mean. The one I assume correct means is the 97 one.
Yeah.
I know which one you mean. I have not technically seen that one. I've seen a bunch of clips and compilations and maybe a couple episodes on YouTube, but never sat down and watched the whole thing.
Okay, Brett, we need to tie Brainstormer to a chair and force feed him X-Men 97.
It's before my time. You guys keep forgetting that I'm pretty young.
Yeah, but a lot of things were before my time too. That doesn't change the fact that I actively sought them out. Like, some of this is on you, dude.
I mean,
You
like,
uncultured swine, you.
you're-
And of course, I'm
like,
being sarcastic.
the reason why I'm somewhat surprised is that like you were a film student and you do all of this research, and like you've never really looked into like some of the older like
Yeah, this is
stuff?
a you should be losing your geek card moment, dude.
Yeah, like X-Men, like X-97 is like,
Well, like I said, I've seen a bit of it. I just haven't like sat down and watched the whole series. That's the
Shame.
you should be shamed for that. I'm sorry, Brainstormer. Like just drug out into the street and just shamed. While Dalton just rings the bell, shame, shame, shame at you. While Brainstormer just walks through the street.
Actually, no. What I'll do is I'll sing "Shame, Shame, Shame" because I'll be quoting that one song from Phantom of the Opera, the Il Muto song.
Oh, you know what what the shame thing reminds me of? There's this scene in Game of Thrones where the woman is ringing the bell and says shame, shame.
yeah.
But yeah, we can go on. Like I said, I really like their dynamic. I really like their dynamic. It's just two evil sort of manipulators like coming together.
And you said replace the one you sent me with
with the last one. Okay, so replace the that's the one under the third one with the newest one. Well, let me see. That's the fourth one. Replace the fourth one with the newest one that I sent you. There we
Okay.
Okay, so it's your turn again, Brainstormer.
Give me 1 second. Set some things up.
Like, Dalton.
Yeah.
Mr. Fantastic and Galactus. Make it happen.
No. If I'm shipping anyone in the Fantastic Four, it's gonna be Mr. Fantastic and Ben Grimm.
Ew,
The thing.
That's weird.
Not really. They're the two closest members of the team. If I'm crack shipping.
They're the two closest members to your fetish.
Well, that, but also in, for example, the Tim Story movies, it's made very clear that they have that sort of friendship to begin with. So if I'm crack shipping, then yes, I'm shipping. If I'm crack shipping the Fantastic Four, then Mr. Fantastic and the Thing are winding up together. That actually reminds me of one of my favorite scenes from the Tim Story Fantastic Four, the one where Reed tells the General off.
All right. Gotta think so. All right.
For as bad as the Tim Story movies are, they do have their moments of being genuinely pretty good.
The movies? Really?
Yeah, like there's a scene in Silver Surfer, Rise of the Silver Surfer,
You mean
where
where Michael Chiklis is the Thing?
yeah.
Ew, really?
Okay, so conversation for later, guys. Number 3, Connor Kent, Superboy, and Cassandra Cain from DC.
That's weird.
Yeah, I don't really.
Actually, no.
I didn't really get this one either, but he explained it. So go ahead.
Okay.
Well, okay, so both were basically designed to be weapons, and both fought against that kind of dark destiny that they were originally given to become to become the thing that they somewhat emulated before, and honestly could be seen as true successors to those legendary heroes. With Connor as Superman, with Cassandra Batman. They're both products of the '90s, I believe.
Yes.
Also, also some of the fan art I've seen, specifically from like this guy, and there's links in the description. See you later, Dragon Turtle. He's gotta go.
See ya, Dragon Turtle.
Later,
Just
Turtle.
yeah, and like this fan art, like the fan art I've seen, kind of really illustrate like these two could work together. Plus, they're two very underutilized characters in recent media that honestly are a lot cooler than some of the others that have been set up lately, and often get overshadowed or ignored. So,
Yeah.
All right.
I also found this really cool fan comic of them together. And again, there is a link in there, but I did want to show it because I think it also kind of helps illustrate the point.
I'll take a look at it.
Well, I have it set up here, so just give me a second.
Cassandra Cain, thick. Holy shit. Oh shit, she thick. She can get this.
Yeah. Oh, corrupt.
I don't know how to respond to that.
You don't respond to it. It's corrupt. You just quietly nod and smile and let corrupt be corrupt.
Right. So yeah, there's I saw this comic on Twitter because there's actually a lot of great artists on there. A lot of great artists on the internet, but no one ever really pays attention to them.
Yeah. If Hollywood knew what they had, they would use the internet as a resource, but unfortunately they don't.
I mean, so part of the reason is like I can understand part of the reason being like copyright and shit. I'll give them that. But then there's so much other stuff that they can get from the internet without having to worry about copyright. Like so many ideas they can pull.
Well, more than that, I'm just talking about why doesn't Hollywood hire any of these artists? Like instead of the deliberately spiteful hacks they have working for them who learn what the internet wants and then do the opposite to deliberately spite them. Why don't they? And you would think for as much as Hollywood loves focus groups, they would love having the internet around because the internet is basically the world's largest focus group.
Probably because it's probably because it's cheaper for them to hire some hack writer who has like a small following of like social justice weirdos than someone who actually is professional and knows what they're doing because that person might actually want to be paid well.
I mean, okay, I guess, but it's still like you would think for as much as Hollywood loves focus group, they would realize that the internet is the world's largest voluntary focus group.
It is.
And then that's the other thing. Like you don't even have to put effort into identifying fans on the internet. They will mostly identify themselves. Like there are literal theory channels who will go on and speculate what different storylines should be. You'd think if I worked for Hollywood, I could just go and be like, okay, so watch 1,000 different theory videos, take bits and pieces of the theories that I like, and merge them together. Boom. But never mind.
guys, as much as this is an interesting conversation, and I feel like we should pick up at some point, like
Mhm.
another time, we are almost at 3 hours, and we barely scratched the surface of our list.
Yeah. So
But like I said,
continue.
I do want to run by this comic just because like it's a good comic, and I think could really show the relationship. I'll be honest. I kind of like this more than the Superboy and Miss Martian of Young Justice, like
Mhm.
the show.
A lot of things that Young Justice did were probably could have been done better.
Yeah. But let me. I am gonna read this, and again, there is a link to this comic itself if you guys want to show support to the artist, which is Chromic Seven Sky on Twitter. Just show support there.
Yeah.
So you have Superboy here looking. Look, Cass, I don't want to be the bad news. I was thought of quitting it. You know, being the superhero thingy.
This superhero thingy.
Yeah, the dialogue's a little bit I don't know on that one. Like that is a problem of modern day writers is they never let people talk like fucking people. They always have to have this like pseudo goofy, pseudo ironic thing going on.
I'm just reading it, okay, and this is a fan thing, so
I know, but it's still like
It feels like they're ashamed of being serious.
a little bit. Anyway, let's let
and
Brainstormer finish and then.
I mean, with the mess I made, even Superman has to clean up. Let's say about Batman. I'll be honest, this does feel like it might have been translated from a different language, given how it's reading.
Okay, then I withdraw my previous objection. If this person's first language isn't English, then they're somewhat excused.
Okay.
Yeah, I've read a couple comics webtoons that have been translated, and there is that weird
Syntax thing.
Yeah, weird. Like, just it gets lost in translation. I think a bit.
Okay, so I
I might
withdraw my previous objection.
I might be wrong, but it does feel a bit weird in terms of. I won't lie. It does feel a bit weird in the wording. I don't think I'll be able to. And she hits him in the forehead, and we move on to the next because this is a thread of comics because Twitter only gives you 4 images to post in one post.
And then he dies.
Well, no, he's freaking Superboy. He's fine.
Right.
Unless she was using like kryptonite brass knuckles or something.
So yeah, here he is, reacting to that. Although isn't Superboy half human, so he at least feel it, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I mean he's half human, but that only takes him down from like god status to demigod status, and Cassandra's just a human. And of course, I'm speaking metaphorically. Don't come at me with the super god thing. Fuck that noise. But you know what I'm saying.
I do know what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah. Connor violently reacts to being hit in the face, forehead, or jabbed, I guess, because she didn't really have a fist. It was like her.
It was just a you're being an idiot slap, basically.
Yeah. Just because you can get through my TK force field doesn't mean you. Alright, doesn't Superboy have telekinetic abilities of some kind?
Not that
Like
I was aware of, but then again, he's not one of my characters, so I don't know.
I don't know much about the comic version because there are so many different versions of Superboy.
Yeah, there's like 3 different Superboy. There's like the actual young Clark Kent one. There's Connor, and then there's John, and then there's alternate universe versions as well. So it's like there's so many super beings here. So many super children.
Sandra says, believe. Connor says, what? I do like how they are keeping, because Cassandra didn't technically learn how to speak until she was like a teenager.
Yeah.
For the record.
Alright.
Okay, so her dialogue being janky kind of makes somewhat sense. Okay, that's fine.
I will say one thing. Like, while I understand the comic, we do have a bit of a timeline, right?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
We do have a bit of schedule, right?
Yeah, you did just point out we're almost at 3 hours. So
Yeah, and you want us to go
do,
through this?
do you want to go?
I
How long is the comic? I guess is the question, because you're going kind of panel by panel.
Pages, again, you can look at it yourselves in the links below. So, but you're right. I was mainly, I'll be honest, that was kind of there to kind of help reiterate my point of why I do think it could work as an actual ship.
That's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, I believe we're on my number. Are we on my number 2 or my number 3? I think we're on my. I think we're on my number 3.
Yeah, you're on number 3. Okay, give me a second to. Okay. This one is not surprising at all.
Doctor Who and Doctor Strange.
No.
Oh, that's yeah. This. Yeah, I've seen this one before.
Yeah. Kevin and Ed from Ed and Eddie.
To be fair, this is like one of the very few crack ships I am well aware of, just because I see it everywhere when I look up Ed and Eddie stuff.
Yeah, because it's a very stereotypical gay jock and nerd relationship. And it gets better the older they get. So yeah. I mean, I don't think I really even need to explain this relationship. Like I say, it's the perfect, jock falling for the nerd relationship. And given how much I think we all have a history with Ed and Eddie as an IP, it doesn't take much doing to kind of fill in the blanks here.
Except for Brainstormer, he was raised on Paw Patrol.
No, he's not that young.
No.
Are you sure? Okay. Just checking.
He's not that young. He was born in '99. He's like 1 year older than 1 or 2 years older than my brother, actually.
That is way after my time, dude. I'm insulted a bit. I'm not gonna lie.
To be fair, you deserved it after the I've never sat down to watch XN97 thing. You're never gonna live that down until you fix it.
For the record, had a lot of things going on in my life that I didn't really have a lot of time to watch a lot of fucking cartoons. Okay.
I am aware of this, but we're still gonna razz you about it for the foreseeable future.
A little bit.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. I just want to point that out. I had a life.
No, dude, you had a freaking superhero backstory. That's far away and above what most people would call a life. Like you went through more life experience by the age of like 12 than most people do in their entire lives, which I respect. But at the same time, as your friend, I too take I am entitled to razz you for not engaging with something which you definitely should have engaged with already by way of geek card status. So yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Fair enough. I'm just right. But
wouldn't be a very good friend if I didn't bust your balls occasionally.
Just a little bit.
I'll be honest. I could see this. To be fair,
you could see this, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of. I mean, to be fair, I
mean, they're in middle school in the course of the show, so by the time they're in high school, who knows?
I mean, it is a bit of a stretch, to be fair, simply because there has. Well, Kevin seems to be more interested in Naz. Well, they're actually in a relationship with Naz, I think.
Yeah,
but by the end of Big Picture Show, but I mean, also to be fair, by the end of Big Picture Show, we see that Naz has a lot of insecurities that may make him regret that in not so very long.
Maybe, but like,
And I'll be honest, Dawn has somewhat convinced me that Double D was. How'd you say it?
I can't remember. I don't know what I'm supposed to have convinced you of this time.
Double D was gay.
how is Double D gay?
I mean, he very much has the like obscure sort of feminine interest that you would associate with being gay.
Based on like what interest?
Like, the constant reading about things like art and culture and stuff, and the obsessive cleanliness and whatnot.
Being cleanly and obsessed with culture, really? That's what makes him gay, really?
I mean, again, we're assuming that the characters evolve off screen to some degree because again, they're in like latter part of elementary school, early part of middle school by the end of it by the time the show wraps. So like high school can change a lot, man.
I'm
It,
just
it,
saying, I'm just saying, those are like just really superficially shallow things to attribute to someone's sexuality, though.
I mean, maybe, but how many times do you guys mock me for being very stereotypically gay? So, yeah.
There also
I
could
mean,
be
well,
that
that's
Dawn
a
is a bit
fucking joke. I don't take it seriously.
uh,
I don't think
I mean, Dawn.
like Brainstormer's like Hispanic, but I don't think he like came over the border illegally. Like, what the fuck?
I was born here.
Exactly.
Can't speak Spanish. To be fair, I also somewhat. I think Dawn is a bit projecting.
I mean, to be fair, I'm not alone in this particular projection because this is probably one of the most common ships in the Ed and Eddie fan community. In fact, I'd go so far as to say it's probably the only ship apart from maybe the Eds and the Kanker sisters.
Frog, Thor, and Jane Foster. I would ship Frog, Thor, and Jane Foster, Chrono.
Right. So shall we
No,
move
the
on,
frog
or-
can do better. The frog can do better.
It depends on which Jane Foster. To be fair.
Yeah, if we're talking about after she became Mighty Thor, then yes, the frog can do better.
Okay, so corrupts number 3. Give me a second. All right, there we go. And share. I will be honest, Corrupt. This was one that did surprise me as well.
Yeah. Like, they have amazing chemistry in the show.
The only thing I would dispute this ship on is he lobotomizes her.
How does he
when
lobotomize her?
She is a sorceress, and he removed her ability to use magic. That is tantamount to a lobotomy.
That's literally not what a lobotomy is, Dalton. That literally is not what a lobotomy is.
She has an innate ability to do a thing, and he fucked around with her physical manifestation so as to remove her ability to do that thing.
That's not what people mean when they say something's a lobotomy, though. Like, a lobotomy has a specific meaning.
Of course, I'm being somewhat figurative, and of course we have to, fill in some gaps because cartoon. But for all intents and purposes, he gave her a magic lobotomy, and
she doesn't have her magic, but he didn't make her retarded. Like, what are you talking about?
If you take someone's innate ability or an innate skill to do a thing away from them, that is kind of crippling them.
That isn't lobotomizing them and making them a drooling retard that's incapable of.
Okay. Corrupt. Again, I acknowledge that I'm being figurative here. My point is that, for example, if she was a runner and he hobbled her, that would definitely be egregious. And in the context of these characters, given that she is a powerful sorceress, him taking away her magic is not a good foundation for a relationship. I would, however,
for one, she said I would have done the same thing if I were you. And two, yeah, of course, because their relationship is built on ambition, and both of them are basically power hungry maniacs that would fuck the other over. Of course, we
Yeah, but
acknowledge that.
a relationship of equals is a far better relationship, or
It's
far
called.
better
Do,
taste for a
do you know?
relationship.
Do you know what a cracked pairing is?
Yes, I know, but again,
Then this qualifies
I was
that.
giving my one objection, and that is one objection to this I would have is unless he returns her magic to her, I would find this relationship to be non feasible. If he
You're
did,
fucking
then
retarded.
that's
That's what a
fine, and
cracked pairing is.
that that could actually be a good basis for like a fan fiction where this happened is he
don't think
finally returns it to her, but whatever.
That's what a cracked pairing is. What, Brainstormer?
I don't think you're gonna win this.
That's what a cracked pairing is.
You're just
Okay,
gonna win.
What
but
is a
you
cracked pairing?
but you
What is
but
a
you
cracked
still
pairing? What
but
is
you
a
still
cracked? What is a cracked pairing?
but
Read
you
the
still get
definition. Read the
okay.
definition of a cracked pairing.
Okay,
Read the
corrupt.
no.
Stop getting
No.
angry with me for a
No.
second and let me
Read
talk.
the definition of a cracked pairing first.
Stop getting
Read
angry
the
and let me
definition
talk.
of a cracked pairing first.
You gave me all kinds of shit over the Kevin and Ed thing, even though that's a
Read
fairly
the
common and
definition of
established
a
pairing.
cracked pairing. Read the definition of a cracked pairing. And I
Hold
did
up.
not give you shit over it. I said, how is he gay? That's all I asked you. I didn't ask you about the relationship. So
Well,
what is a cracked pairing, Brainstormer? What is a cracked pairing?
A ship that is canonically implausible, bizarre, or humorous.
Thank you.
yeah, but my point is that just because it's canonically bizarre or humorous doesn't mean we can't have opinions about it. And one of my opinions is that I don't think this relationship could work even under the auspices of a crack ship until and unless he returns her magic to her.
Your opinion is noted, but saying something isn't valid when it's supposed to be insane doesn't make sense. It's supposed to be a
I
bizarre
didn't say it was an invalid crack ship. I simply said one of my objections to this particular crack ship would be that until and unless he uncorks her powers, then I couldn't co-sign it. And I was kind of joking, but since you blew it out of all proportion, I felt the need to defend myself again.
Okay, we're done. We're done. We're done. Putting you both in corners right now. Kind of what it feels like what I'm doing right now. I didn't want this spiraling into a very long rant of some kind. Okay, so is there any other reason why corrupt?
They have great chemistry together. They have great chemistry together. Like they're perfect relation. Like they're basically backstabbers who understand each other, and that's why Chase took her magic away. Like, and she even said, "Hey, I would have done the same thing to you." Of course, they're perfect for one another. That's why
Okay.
That's what I thought. But yeah, it's a crack. That's why it's a cracked pairing.
All right. And it seems Dawn has disappeared. Okay. Let me say I'm gonna text him, see what happened. Well, I'm waiting for Dawn to reappear. I guess I'll move on to the next one.
Go ahead.
Number 4 is this is kind of a more improbable one.
Yes, they're evil characters, Frodo. Yes, they're both evil characters.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man and Power Girl.
Oh, I could see that.
Um, yeah. Not the best explain. Well, one thing, this kind of inspired more by like some fan art and comics I have seen from a specific um, artist on DeviantArt. Uh,
So wait, is it Power Girl and Supergirl at the same time, or
I think it's the same one, just growing up together. So I think it's like the Earth 2 possible Power Girl that was Supergirl originally, but grew up to become Power Girl.
let me see.
Um, so reasoning why is, well, given Peter Parker's life, it is hard for him to maintain. It's similar to with like Batman. It's hard to maintain a relationship with his superheroics and a regular woman. Granted, I think him and Mary Jane are awesome, even though Marvel constantly fucks with them.
You think like
Um,
you think it could
constantly
work?
separates them all the time.
Yeah, Mary Jane and Peter. Yeah, that's true. They always
Yeah,
they never want Peter to grow up, basically.
or be happy or whatever. This could work. Given one, they're both superheroes, so they both understand that line of work.
Yeah.
Um, uh, they're
Wait,
both
so
just.
is it okay? I'm kind of confused. Is it two different Spider-Man, or is it Spider-Man? What is this comic?
It's an eight. It's them through the years together.
Okay, all right. You know what confused me? It's because she's wearing Power Girl's outfit. That's why. Oh, my bad. It's because she's wearing Power Girl's outfit. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right. Um. I was losing my train of thought there. Yeah, they also have like similar personalities. Given the limited knowledge I do have of Power Girl, I know a bit of her, obviously, but not. She's not a character I have been. To be fair,
Familiar
they
with?
don't really use her.
Yeah.
They, so there's not enough I've seen of her. Um, but they really act like regular people most of the time. So uh, again, it really could just work
I
on
could see
the basis that
on the basis of what?
uh, they're trying to do good. They're average blokes trying to live up to like this uh, huge mantle of responsibility. Granted, in different ways. With like Kara, it's the House of L. With Peter, it's with great power comes great responsibility. Um, and again, like really, they just get each other. I would think.
Because they understand where each other's they understand the burden on each other's shoulder, and I'm guessing the same humorous kind of personality.
Yeah.
So yeah, so basically like that, and they look like they'd have a lot of fun together.
Hmm.
I do like the aging up through the. I do like the how they kind of age together. from like teenagers to like older lovers and shit.
Yeah. That's pretty much it for mine.
Is that? I thought we had to have 5 ships.
No, I mean that's all I have to say for my fourth. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. And again, links to this stuff below. I would recommend you guys give it a look.
I like the fan art.
Fans know how to do it, and they really do.
They can do something interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I guess we'll move on to your number 4.
Yeah.
Your new number.
Yeah, the new one. Sorry about that. I just thought, oh, I don't like my number 4. Let me try and change it really quickly.
That's fine. I my number 5. I literally need today. So
So these two, basically, they're what are called humagears. They're androids, basically, right? And they're both like comrades, but they have this sort of relationship with each other that the best way to describe their relationship with each other is sort of like one is like Jin, that's the guy with the hood, is working as is like really loyal to Hirobi, who's dedicated to their cause. And the relationship they kind of have, I don't know, I get like kind of a sort of like relation, I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe, but it's basically a kind of relationship where one like seeks approval from the other, and in seeking that approval from the other, it like I could see it venturing on the border of like a sort of romance for one another. Like the For example, when Hirobi quote unquote dies because like he gets defeated in a fight, and Jin assumes that he was actually killed, he goes on this sort of like, basically he wants to go on a killing spree because he's like torn up over the fact that Hirobi dies. And that like dedication and love for somebody was just like, damn, I could see them at an actual relationship for one another, because he's just that torn up over the fact that he thought Hirobi died, and they have like this loyalty to one another that like, even when their goals don't exactly match up, they still have like this strong like bond of loyalty to one another. I loved it. But yeah, that's pretty much my ship, I guess.
okay.
All right, we can go on to your next one if you want, or we can wait for Dalton if you want.
And I think we're gonna have to move on without him for
All
now
right.
because I some part of me thinks his phone might have died.
All right.
Okay. Give me 1 second. So my number 5. This is the one I recently added today because I had a hard time thinking of 5.
Let me see your 5.
Adrian Tepesh and Saifa Bernaldez from the Castlevania series.
Is this really a cracked ship? I kind of see people just shipping the. I thought people would have shipped them normally. Is this really? Well,
I'll
I
be
guess
honest,
within the context
I
of
don't
the
really
show,
pay
I
attention
guess.
to shipping. I've never really seen any shipping with Castlevania, to be fair.
I'm not familiar with it. I'm not as familiar with the show as I probably should be. I've seen a few episodes of it, but like I kind of figured that they would have shipped these two.
I'm just going off what I'm just going off like a general idea I had.
Okay. So what's your
Of something
general idea
something
for
I've
it?
seen, yeah, something I know, like a property I know of. So
Okay,
I need a fifth. So just
makes sense.
um because spoiler for you, I guess. Sypha and Trevor end up together. So
All right.
um they're just really fun together. Like they were good back and forth. Uh, they're both very intelligent um, and just charming together. You know.
Basically, they have. You can kind of see them in an actual relationship, basically.
Yeah.
I'm actually. I could see that. Like, are there any scenes in particular that kind of made you go, "Oh, I could totally see these two together"?
Um, they don't get a lot of scenes. I will admit that. But two come to mind. One is in season two, where uh, Alucard or Adrian, that's his real name, uh, talks about talks about his life a bit and mentions that he kind of grew a lot faster than others. So he, accelerated aging of that kind. And she makes a cute little joke about how he is uh, a teenager. So,
Uh,
why he's kind of acting like a teenager, which it makes sense why. 'Cause he is one, effectively.
yeah.
And the other one is kind of towards the end of the series where uh, it turns out that Sypha is pregnant with Trevor's child, and she's setting out to go be with her people again, the speakers. Um, and he offers that she could stay in the village, um, like have a life there as well. And it's very very soft, very kind, and it's really cool, really nice.
This actually makes me want to go look at the scene now that you've described it.
Yeah.
Kind of interested in
Um,
seeing it myself.
I won't lie, they do. I it does kind of come off more as like a genuine friendship, which is also cool.
Yeah.
Um, but I could see them becoming a relationship if certain things have played out differently. Obviously, I'm just. And again, this is a fan art I found because not a lot. Like I said, they don't get a lot of screen time together in the show, so there's not a lot of images of them together.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I'm actually surprised you found such a good picture of Hirobi and fucking Jin. Like I could not find a good picture of them.
I just typed Hirobi and Jin in Google and found it still in the show.
For some reason, I couldn't. For some reason, I think the only one I could find was I think the one that I sent you, but the one that you showed is actually pretty good.
Um, Besides that, I don't know if it's coming back. Well, I guess we'll see him Sunday then. Uh,
All right.
so with that, folks, I want to say goodbye, adios, aloha, avidazai, sayonara, peace, cheers, and fuck
Goodbye.
off.
Yeah. Goodbye.